And welcome everyone to another Speed Chess Championship match, our final quarterfinals of the 2019 event. And it's without any further ado, this is what most of the people have been waiting for, right? It's Hikaru Nakamura, the one seed overall, versus the young upstart, if you will, the rising star from Poland, Jan-Krzysztof Duda. Robert, welcome in, buddy.
Well, I would say thanks for having me because you start off like John Oliver with your welcome, welcome, welcome. But, at what point do we stop calling Jan-Krzysztof Duda the young upstart and just start calling him a almost top 10 player in the world, right? He's nearly 27-60 in classical chess. We know his prowess in Speed Chess Championship format after he beat Sergei Karyakin and Alexander Grishuk last year. Of course, Hikaru Nakamura is the kind of the mighty beast here, the one that everybody is trying to catch. So I'm really excited for this matchup, Danny.
I'll tell you, we'll stop calling him the young upstart once he has a little bit of facial hair. That'll be the benchmark. Once he has a little bit of facial hair. Jokes aside, obviously he's considered the young upstart because of the fact that he sort of burst on the scene, roughly about 18 months ago, and he's been on a rocket star trajectory ever since. But as you said, he's going up against Hikaru Nakamura, and this is a guy that hardly needs an introduction at all, not just to the online chess and streaming community, but in the Speed Chess Championship format here on Chess.com. He is kind of the man to beat, right? He is the guy that everyone's gunning for, the one seed for a reason. He's won himself a Speed Chess Championship before and been in the finals every single year. So as we look at those numbers, it's hard to even know which to highlight more. So let's dive into the numbers that actually give us a little bit more discussion here, because I want to get Smarter Hess's predictions or Smarter Hess's breakdown of the Smarter Chess review in terms of how these two guys stack up.
Well, Smarter Chess the numbers predict Nakamura being about 70% favorite. I know you think that it's even higher. I'm kind of agreeing with you there. I think that his online prowess is undeniable. He is the number one blitz-rated player in the world, and we talked about this, touched upon it yesterday in our Grand Chess Tour commentary. Even if Hikaru over the board is number one in blitz rating, we all think that Magnus Carlsen the best blitz player in the world. However, Magnus is not playing in the Speed Chess Championship, which means to all of us, it's Hikaru's event to win. Although Jan-Krzysztof Duda is the upset specialist, so I do think he has a fighting chance, although he is a heavy underdog, something like I'd give him 20% chance to win this.
Yeah, I mean, I'd say the 30% that Smarter Chess gives him is about a fighter's chance, right? It's about a puncher's chance, and that might be about as good as he's going to get, right? And not to say that he may not make a move early. I think we'll dive into what we think as far as where does he need to strike, how and when. Obviously, we know that Hikaru Nakamura, even if some consider Magnus the best blitz player in the world, I think Hikaru is still considered by many the best bullet player. And even in matches that he lost to Magnus here in the SEC, Hikaru did quite well in the bullet. So I think that if you're Jan-Krzysztof Duda, you want to strike early. And there we have the percentages that remain for all of our remaining participants, if you will, right? You see Jan-Krzysztof Duda over there in the 8th seed, and let's go ahead and bring up our bracket, remind everybody where we stand currently in the format, because Jan Nepomniachtchi awaits the winner of today's match. He's already sitting there pretty in the semifinals, and of course, a lot of people expecting, as we said, Hikaru Nakamura to be the face that joins him, but that's why the game is played, right? If it was a foregone conclusion, Robert, we wouldn't be here. We wouldn't be sitting next to each other, and we wouldn't be about to start our final Speed Chess Championship quarterfinal of the 2019 season. We have our players with us. Hikaru doesn't look too tired there. Looks a little bit groggy, but maybe he'll be getting going soon. Jan-Krzysztof looks ready to roll. And as we get set, I want to welcome in already almost 3,000 of you across our multiple streaming platforms, no matter where you're tuning in. Thanks for making the Speed Chess Championship and Chess TV part of your day. We'll be following all of the chat rooms live, and thanks for being here. So we are moments away from the game's beginning. We already have active chat rooms across everywhere, and right as I say that, I think the game's just begun. Okay, so there you go. We have liftoff, right? No more tomfoolery, no more ballyhoo. Here we go. We have knight of 3 and d4. Now this is Okay, I was just going to start out. How do you approach this if you're Hikaru? Do you play your vintage sort of blitz bullet repertoire you become known for, right? The G3s, the B3s, and the Hikaru Nakamura dub system. I feel like they should just rename it, right? No, and Hikaru wants to play some mainline stuff against JKD.
Well, you said no tomfoolery. I was thinking no Hikaru foolery in the opening thus far, because he is playing some mainline stuff, principal chess in the center, rather than playing, as you said, B3, G3, fianchettoing bishops, and then figuring the rest out later. And, we saw the pre-match interviews with the players. Hikaru Nakamura has great respect for Jan-Krzysztof Duda. And of course, Jan-Krzysztof Duda has great respect for Hikaru Nakamura. And I think we're seeing that in this very first game, because Hikaru is the biggest favorite when it gets to the quicker time controls, the quickest time controls, in fact, in the bullet. And JKD has proven himself to be an absolutely worthy challenger in every SEC match he's played in. Hikaru made a point of noting that JKD can go on tilt, and he did so against Wesley So. And in this game right now, well, I mean, what happened on the D5? What?
Let's back up and see what happened on the D5. We had move 8.
Did he do a mouse slip? He took with a knight on D5 instead of a pawn?
Yeah, but what happened there? It must have been a mouse slip. And he's already kind of shaking his head. I think he was planning on click here, and maybe he clicked here. Right? Remember, some people prefer the drag move. Some people like to click when they move. I like to use a little bit of both. Honestly, I'm a little bounce aroundish with my move styles. But maybe the risk of click is if you go quickly here, Robert, and you click here and then click here. That's what happens, right? Rather than an actual drag. But Naka is normally a dragger, so and I know that because we see him on a lot of streams. So very shocking to see a mouse slip from the favorite here, and that could be just a very quick way to go down 0-1 here, right? He's just down a piece here on move 13.
Yeah, you don't see Hikaru mouse slip very frequently, and he's not playing from his typical location, right?
Right.
So I wonder if part of it, since he's playing from New York rather than from Florida or wherever in the world he is usually playing from, I wonder if he has a different mouse today or something like that. But this is a very bad start for Hikaru. And of course, Jan-Krzysztof needs to end this game. You cannot let
I was going to say, now if Hikaru comes back and wins this game, who is it really a sad start for, right? I see Crazy Coffee Man in the chat saying Hikaru prefers click. So maybe I'm wrong. I mean, I know that Coffee watches a lot of Hikaru streams as well, so maybe, and again, it sounds very weird. This is an interesting storyline I wasn't expecting us to dive into, Robert. Are you a clicker or a dragger, right? What are you into, Robert? Click or drag?
I don't really think about it like that, but I guess I'm a clicker.
Right? No, I mean everybody has a style, I think, and it really depends. Shout out to all the love and support we're already getting here. I don't know, but all we know is Hikaru was down a piece. If you're just joining us, there was a mouse slip on move 8 from the American, and it's why we stand where we do, where he's just down a piece. But he is up a minute on time, and Hikaru, more than anybody else in the world, knows how to mix things up. Knows how to be resourceful, especially in blitz, where he trusts his skills in any time scramble over anybody. So, meaning I'm not surprised he didn't resign. Like I'm not surprised.
He also probably wants to get to the quicker time control. So eating up some of the match clock is probably not a bad strategy. And
that's a good point. I didn't think about that.
He gets to shake it off, right? I'm now not talking Taylor Swift, but he gets to just like say, okay, I just did a terrible mouse slip. I'm obviously frustrated with myself having done that, because he knows that he really can't afford to just hand Jan-Krzysztof Duda some games, right? Jan-Krzysztof Duda is so strong, we keep talking about this, that you can't just say, here's a free point, let me come back and try to beat you. Of course, Hikaru is capable of doing so, but it's not what you want when you're playing the nearly 2760 classically rated Jan-Krzysztof Duda, one of the top 15 players in the world.
Shout out to Henry II in the Chess TV chat. He's saying he wants to lodge a complaint with the people who scheduled this during the same time as the Grand Chess Tour Finals. That complaint should go to the other organizers, not us. No, I'm kidding. Hikaru is a very, very busy guy, and when he did not qualify for the GCT Finals, this date opened up, and we had to take it because, honestly, it's very difficult to find opportunities to schedule in events. But stick with us. Watch the show. Both of those events are going right now on Chess.com. You can also watch the Grand Chess Tour over at our sister channel, twitch.tv/Chess.com events. It's being covered right now by I am Levy Rosman and GM Rulin Prusers.
Okay, I was going to say, well, Danny, why might Hikaru Nakamura be so busy? Isn't there a daily question that you wanted to ask?
Yeah, in fact, I'd love to cue that as soon as we're ready, because those of you who are huge fans of Hikaru Nakamura, or even if you're just a casual fan of
Wait. Is that
Hikaru
a
he just won back the piece?
His queen b5.
Oh, queen b5. Oh, he looked up. Okay, but Hikaru announced in his public Discord that he was flying to make an appearance in a major HBO series. We don't know what that was. I don't even know if it's fiction or nonfiction. I don't know if it involves dragons and Game of Thrones spin-offs or, futuristic, utopian, government suppressed worlds like Watchmen. All I know is I want to know what the world thinks. If Hikaru Nakamura is going to make an appearance on any HBO show, okay, Chessbay knows. Okay, classic. All right. I want to know what you think. So this is going to be a fun daily question. I hope to see everyone involved. Use the hashtag SpeedChess. You can let us know here in any chat room, depending on where you want to watch from. But let us know on Twitter so that we can feature your Twitter handle. Let us know and give us a good reason. Why would he be in Watchmen if you know the characters? Why would he be in Westworld? Why would he be in Robert's favorite show, Barry? Very underrated, but Curb Your Enthusiasm is coming back to HBO.
I love Barry. So
let us know your thoughts.
All right. Well, I'll give do you want thoughts on the Berlin?
Yeah, I was going to say, while you give us your thoughts on what HBO show Hikaru Nakamura might be appearing on, is the Berlin a choice that you would make when you're down a piece? Well, here's the thing. I think if you're Hikaru Nakamura, you forget the fact that you're down a point right now, because the only reason you lost that first game was due to a mouse slip. Again, while the live game's going, I'm just going to show on the analysis board exactly what happened. It was move 8, an unexplainable knight takes d5 here rather than pawn takes d5, which is the main theory. Must have just been a click mouse slip where he accidentally clicked here and then clicked here. So that is why we are where we stand. Back to the current game. Hikaru Nakamura is down 1 point in the match. It's a lot of theory right now. I can say that about the Berlin.
For sure. And right now we're in a position where let's talk about some of the strategic elements here. Right? Black has these double pawns on the C file, which makes in a pure pawn endgame getting a pass pawn difficult. However, with this rook on E6, that rook can swing from flank to flank. Right? It can go over to B6 to poke at the B2 pawn. It can go back over to G6 at the right moment if necessary. And look at this rook now on D3, hitting the G3 pawn. Now, of course, White's going to play a move like King F2, eventually perhaps even play H4, decide if you want to play G4. So you have flexibility from both sides here, which makes the game so complicated. The pawn on E5 for now is a strength. It restricts Black's pieces. So H4 for White makes a lot of sense just to avoid any kind of G5 threat. And there he played H4 to stop G5 because you have actually had a clear and very potent threat of the G3 pawn hanging in many variations.
Yeah, and now this move C4 by Hikaru I really like because it holds back the queenside pawns, as you already highlighted. B2 is a potential target. But it also opens up the C5 square for business if you ever remove your knight from the center. Which could be, honestly, if I'm just evaluating Berlin positions, this is one I would take as Black.
Yeah, for sure. And it's one of these double-edged, and it's not double-edged the same way some sharp Sicilians are, right? That's where tactics are flying from side to side. Here it's just like which side is going to come up with a concrete plan.
Right.
And many strategic mistakes are actually possible. For example, playing the move B7 to B5 may be a good idea at some moment, but at other times it's just too soon and actually just like creates a problem with your structure on the queen side. And the best piece on the board is this knight on E4. It takes the bishop square on C5. It covers, G3. It, just protects C3 if Black does go B5, B4 or something like that. So I think just this knight E4 is so powerful. And watch out for some kind of knight F6 or knight D6 threats if the situation arises where that's a possibility. And instead, well, JKD says, I'm going to move my rook away from A1, so let me close down the queen side. And I like White here.
One thing I will note is how fast JKD is playing, especially right on cue, as we see one of the quotes from Jan-Krzysztof Duda. We catch up with all the players before these matches and ask them interview questions, and you can see that Duda's respect for Hikaru online is of the highest order, right? And I'm saying that because of how quickly he's playing on the clock, right? Duda seems to be making a concerted effort. He did last game too when Hikaru blundered a piece. He's like, I'm not going to let you swindle me in time pressure, right? Not now, Hikaru. Not now. Not this way, right? So look at that. He's up on the clock against Nakamura, which is just not something you see every day.
He's also just has a tremendously good position because, hey, look what Hikaru's been doing. He's been swinging his rooks like kind of back and forth. And if you look at the king side position here, you can play G4, then bring your king to G3. And it just, white is making progress and black is just shuffling at this point. And I mean, I just don't see a concrete plan for black, and white, I see many different plans. Another idea is like rook d2 and trade off one pair of rooks, suggesting that this rook on d5 is kind of a nuisance. So they play rook d2, try to take over the d file.
He likes your plan. Here comes the king up to g3, I think. g4, king g3, rook d3 check can be met by rook f3.
Yep.
And you make a great point. I really liked the way this was going for black, and I said so. I mean, if I was evaluating the position back on rook d3, but I guess I underestimated that while this optically looked good, and we talked about the open file here, the problem is where were you going from here, right? And it turned out black didn't have enough improving moves, whereas white still has many moves to make, as we've seen here, slowly expand on the king side, kind of push black back, which is where Duda's headed now. So, ooh, a take.
Well, I was going to say he couldn't play king g3 actually, and then you're followed rook f3 because there's bishop h4 check at the end of that.
I'm going to show that on the analysis board. Great point. So I thought he would play king g3 one because of check here, but then Robert's point, bishop h4 check overloads the king, and if you back up, I just grab the pawn. Okay, I didn't see that, but that means Hikaru's probably going to draw now. I don't know that trade on h6, did it really improve white's winning chances? I don't know. Hikaru kind of shaking his head, like, what did I just do? So maybe,
white definitely
maybe white still does have winning chances.
Well, the thing is, if you go after the f7 pawn, right, with like rook d7, white can just go rook f6, and then say your e6 pawn, your h6
and you're
pawn.
already in the danger of worrying about g5 in a lot of positions if your rook isn't guarding it. Just breaking through and pushing Harry.
It looks like a terrible endgame for black. And at the very least, you look at the queen side, that 4-on-3 that we talk about in the Berlin structure is useless in creating a passed pawn, especially with rooks off the board. So that's the thing, right? Even if you lose the f7 pawns and rooks get traded, black's not even really up a pawn. And that's the sad part about having double pawns. And, I treat all pawns equally, but double pawns in endgames are not very good.
Yeah.
Rook f6 is just rook f6 and you're cruising.
Rook f6, there's no way to deal with h6 and keep your eye on f7 because f8's coming.
Yeah, this is...
Hikaru's last chance is push the e-pawn and create some sort of time scramble counterplay.
But the e-pawn, you can go e4, but I can always just bring my king back to f4, rook h7 check to follow, and then the whole queen side collapses.
Last chance is maybe something like rook f1 here to cut the f-file and then, try to make something magical happen.
Yeah, unfortunately, magic's not happening in this one. This ain't Disneyland. No, this is just
the magical place on Earth.
Rook h7 check.
It's not magical after you leave that place. Your wallet. I'll tell you that.
Okay. That's very true. This is just the king just corrals the pawn by itself, and so the white rook can just start going lawnmower on the 7th rank and just taking care of all the grass there, all those pawns. Nice. This is just
all right. This has been an impressive start from JKD. Now, again, the first one I think was just purely Hikaru beating himself. No real debate on that, right? But that game was a start to finish. Hikaru might not want to visit the Berlin again, right?
Yeah, that was not a good showing by him. And
that was clean.
Yeah, I mean, Duda played a very good game. I think Hikaru would admit that. Of course, there's going to be some frustration on Hikaru's part saying, I could have done things better. But all credit to Duda. That was a very well-played game. If we saw in the classical game, we'd be impressed. And so right now, Duda... Sorry, go ahead.
No, we talked about that this would need to be the storyline, right? For those of you just joining us, let's remind you of what the pre-match predictions were. Our Smarter Chess stats had Jan-Krzysztof Duda at about a 30% underdog, if you will, right? But we said, as you looked at those breakdowns, the 5-1, 3-1, 1-1, if he's gonna prove those stats wrong and pull the upset, you got to get a reverse score there in 5-1 instead of 5.5, 3.5 Nakamura. I think Duda's got to come out of this portion up a couple games as the time controls get faster, and right now he's on pace for doing that, right?
Yeah, you definitely cannot afford to go into the bullet portion with a deficit, right? We know Hikaru is the better bullet player, although Jan-Krzysztof Duda is a great bullet player, and especially with increment rather than just straight 1-0, that gives him better chances.
Yep.
But you're definitely right that Duda needs to make his mark early. He needs to frustrate Hikaru because Hikaru is somebody, as Duda himself credited him. He said the guy just knows how to put his pieces on great squares, which sounds like so basic. Like,
Right.
oh, he knows. No, but that's very hard to do. Is to play extremely precisely and extremely quickly.
Right.
That combination is deadly in Speed Chess Championships.
No, and we talk about that because the faster the time control, need more coffee apparently, tongue twisted, the more intuition takes over, right? The more you have to have those instincts and those just the brutal calculation skills. And I think that, right after Magnus of his generation, you would probably put Hikaru Nakamura as maybe number 2 in terms of just pure intuition, pure calculation, and that's why he is the beast he is in Blitz, right? And I think that's why Dude is very complimentary of him and why, we expect him to be the favorite. But right now, Jan-Krzysztof sporting a new hairdo, as I saw someone in chat say earlier. Also sporting a 2-game lead. Shout out to Jules Cheat. Amazing support yesterday. We appreciate all the love and the subscriptions and the donos we've been getting with our Grand Chess Tour coverage. And appreciate everyone who's here in all the chat rooms, no matter where you're watching. We've already got almost 6,000 people. People want to see Nakamura play Blitz, I've learned. I've learned that that's something people want to see, Robert. They like that.
They also might want to see Duda play. Come on, you'll give the guy some credit too. No, but you're absolutely right. Hikaru's made a huge name for himself, of course, for his over-the-board skills and accomplishments, but as well as being a popular streamer here. So on the internet, he of course is very popular. But right now, he really has his work cut out for him because the black side of this Sicilian, I would not mind this position at all for JKD. Knight C4 here, just I thought Knight C4 instead of taking because I actually tend not to like these positions from the black side. When you take on b3, it gives white these double pawns, but those pawns are mobile, right? That pawn's going to b4. Now the next one might go to a5.
Yep.
Pawn after that might go to b5, and you're undoubling your pawns in a very clear way, like a very simple way, in fact.
No, I agree totally, and I've played too many bad dragons as black to like that either, and so I'm going to review the opening real quick as we were kind of talking storyline here, but we started out with a Najdorf, but ultimately kind of transposed here with this a4 move going away from a Najdorf. Jan-Krzysztof says, okay, well, I'll go into a dragon now that I know you're not going to play a Yugoslav attack, which is from a practical point of view kind of interesting, right? The reason you don't play the dragon, Robert, is because we don't like Yugoslav attacks, right? So This was an interesting sort of footwork there. He says, you're not going to play this, so now I'll go in for a dragon, but it didn't throw Hikaru off here. And the main structure Robert's highlighting is that taking b3 is just so often an improvement for white. The move he was going to suggest was knight c4, right, Robert, to try to get the bishop pair.
Yeah, I just think that, the double pawns are appealing for white more so than they are as like a potential target for black to take advantage of. So I was definitely going to suggest knight c4 there. And, well, he didn't play it, so now we get this position where white has taken over space in the center. That bishop on b3, you have to wonder, has it wandered too far? Because rook a3 is coming in the near future, and that bishop is quickly running out of squares as the white squares.
And the main point, everybody, is if you get rook a3, let's say some random move, and this bishop goes to c4, you're not trading here. You're moving the bishop and then playing b3.
Exactly.
Yeah, that's okay. We'll see if Hikaru goes for a plan like this. It seems kind of straightforward to me. Hikaru, given those eyes there, that's it. That's Hikaru number 7. He's skeptical of his opponent's plan.
Yeah, he is quizzically looking at this position, being like,
wait a second. And Jan-Krzysztof kind of gives a scratch. He's like, I don't know. We'll find out here. We'll find out if that bishop has a future.
And, rook a3, I guess this is a position where you need to calculate concretely because bishop c4, you need to figure out what is the precise square for your bishop to move to. Because I'm sure that you can't just move it to any square from the e2 and try to trap the bishop. There has to be. So he started with bishop g4.
I that. That's a sneaky way to do it, right?
Well, yeah, he's like, I'm going rook a3 and trapping your bishop.
Now this is a direct threat. Rook a3 and b3 will just trap the bishop on c4.
So black can play d4 at some moment, but then you're just going to be down a pawn. So clearly that's not what you're aiming for. What else can black do here?
At some point, you almost have to sack the d pawn, right? But the problem is that even then, what are you going to do? Go to d5 and let me trade, right?
I have an idea. Can you play queen e7? There he does.
He goes for it. Yeah, he's hitting b4. But knight e2 quickly found by Hikaru. A new threat. Knight d4 and b3 arises.
Yeah, this bishop is just not doing well over here. Wait, if you take on c1 here, do you get the a4 pawn? Or you can take with a knight on c1?
Oh, that's nice. Wow. The knight takes, and the bishop is trapped on the spot.
Wow. What a concept.
Rook takes, knight takes, bishop c4, b3.
And then you have to go d4. Right? We've been talking about this d4 push. At some point in these lines, if that bishop's getting trapped, you play d4, just give up a pawn and hope that things are not too bad. But this is just positionally good for white. I think it all comes back to this knight takes b3 decision for me. So h5, how does that help? Just bishop f3?
Kind of like a desperate, you need to get a tempo.
And part of the issue, though, is black had used the g5 as well, trying to undermine the e5 pawn. But now g5 is way worse than it was before because h5 hangs in every variation. So
it's a nice idea, g5 to undermine e5. I wonder if he missed that. Let's back up real quick and show that on the old analysis board. This move g5 is kind of a useful shot to keep in mind. You've got two attackers here.
Yeah.
Maybe this was his best chance because right now, while the rooks are kind of staring each other down, the bishop is sort of still alive, right? Black has a chance to create a mess as long as there's other tension in the position and you can't just go out of your way to trap the bishop. Although, on that note, rook a3 might have been totally possible because if the trade happens, you kind of still run out of squares here.
Right, but the bishop c4 with a knight on e2 means there's actually a knight hanging, so you just spend another
right,
move.
Yeah, and a lot of these positions, again, the point is you're going to take here with tempo and e5 is falling. So I'm with you. Maybe g5. Oh, look, he's actually played g5 now. So whether he missed it the first time or decided he doesn't care about the h-pawn, he has found it the second time.
Yes. And now all of a sudden, the problem I was trying to highlight is the h5 pawn. You might not capture it right now, but that pawn h5 feels like it's just hanging in certain variations. So like if I go g3 to reinforce my structure and not allow you to just kind of collapse it.
Hikaru sees some kind of force line there. I'm anticipating.
So g takes f4 here. It looks like the best move.
Right, g takes f4 gains a tempo, so you can't just take b3 and win a piece.
So gf4, bishop 4, maybe just, your bishop's getting trapped, so maybe just sacrifice it on a4, then take on e5 and claim compensation. Oh. He went bishop.
Hikaru's taking his time with that bishop. Wants to make sure he guards e5 before he goes for b3.
Oh, extremely instructive, though. That bishop's still going to be trapped.
Yeah.
So Hikaru just played rook e1. What a calm move.
Yeah. And you see he takes a confident, tall drink of water there, I think, knowing that his opponent is under 20 seconds and probably still getting his bishop trapped.
So is b3 finally? Oh, b3, I guess queen takes b4 gives black some compensation for that bishop that's going to be lost. But it feels like just the correct move order here should be lights out and should get Hikaru Nakamura on the scoreboard.
Yep.
And he's doing a great job right now of using his time. Right? That's something that we've criticized the players in classical chess the last few days, but Hikaru spent a little bit when bishop takes h5, realized, hey, I don't even need to trap this bishop. I'm going to go checkmate this barren black king on g8.
I was calculating b3, queen b4, and you could probably still win a piece in that line, but I think this is likely the more accurate approach.
Yeah, because actually b3 still traps the bishop. You go or queen g3 check first.
Queen g3 check, take away the d3 square, and then b3 or rook e3, right? That's how you do it. Rook on the elevator, lifted to g3. In fact, you could even play it now because you might be threatening sacrifices in a lot of positions. Yeah, he does it.
Yep.
Here comes rook takes g7, and then queen g3 and bishop h6, lights out.
How about just bishop g5, and if your queen moves away, knight takes e6 check is going to be a...
Oh, you love it when you find moves like knight takes e6. I can see it. You just light up.
So bishop takes f7?
Oh, I was going to say bishop f6 is probably just good enough, but bishop takes f7 works as well.
Yeah, he's winning that queen.
And just like that, Hikaru Nakamura is going to get on the board here.
Yeah, I mean, I don't
want to. What I don't agree with here is Jan-Krzysztof playing this out. Like, to me, given the fact that he wants to get as many long time control games as possible. Although, again, okay, we're adding a little bit of storyline. Maybe Jan-Krzysztof isn't as afraid of Hikaru and Bullet as the rest of us think he should be, right? I mean, it is the increment bullet, as you've said. It's one thing that makes the SCC what it is. It's as high quality bullet as you can get. Real chess matters when you add that increment. It's not just brutal flagging. And I think that always helps the underdog.
Yeah, totally. And well, I guess Jan-Krzysztof, he might not consider himself that heavy of an underdog. He did express that he is absolutely the underdog.
Right.
Hikaru Nakamura is the favorite, but he's a confident player. He should be confident. He's playing great chess these days. He was the runner-up in the Hamburg FIDE Grand Prix event. So, he's in the best chess shape of his life. So why not just play this out a little bit, see if he can make a miracle happen. And well, look at that D pawn.
Yeah.
I mean, that's a
Daryl.
serious.
Dirty Donna dancing on the D1 square. No, not enough. You're still running into H7 on the next move. And Diamond member Vin Silden in the Chess TV chat says Duda knows no fear, but Hikaru Nakamura, when it comes to the SCC, says abandon all hope, ye who enter here. This is my game, right? So he gets on the board, and we'll see if he can keep it up.
Hikaru Nakamura's only lost to Magnus Carlsen in Speed Chess Championship. So,
this would be back to the Berlin. First. If you're just joining us, everyone, this was game 2, and honestly, it was probably the best game so far for either player. Jan-Krzysztof really outplayed Hikaru. Game 1 was a mouse slip by Nakamura that ultimately had him lose. So this is interesting, and we're in the exact same line. So guess what, everyone? If you missed game 2 and you just got here, no worries. You haven't seen anything new yet. This is exactly what happened in game 2. We'll see where Hikaru tries to improve, Robert.
Yeah, I'm certainly curious to see how Hikaru plans to improve his chances, because the last time around, it seemed like Jan-Krzysztof didn't do all that much. He played natural moves. I mean, this position happened, H4 was played.
Yep, this is the exact game. Hikaru played rook d3. Jan-Krzysztof played H4 in game 2. Hikaru played C4. Yep. But it didn't slow down White's eventual kind of expansion over here on the king side, advancing and dominating. But Hikaru must feel he had a clear improvement, because there was something about the facial expression he gave there, Robert. I know you were reading the board. I was reading Hikaru. Yep. And I think when he missed knight f6 check, he felt like he could have held that, and I think he was just a little frustrated with the way he calculated the rook ending.
I don't know. I really didn't like his position throughout, but I do appreciate you reading, the picture book while I'm reading the book with words there. And
that's why I got my kids the book with no pictures by BJ Novak. Great. If you're get it, go. I don't get anything for it. BJ Novak book with no pictures. Great stuff. It was really for me, so I could stop reading pictures.
Well, you are the absolute world expert in reading Hikaru Nakamura facial expressions. I mean, you even have a fat head to prove it.
Well, speaking of which, Hikaru's on the board. Hikaru's happy. I got both facial expressions next to me today. I plan for them both to make appearances. The problem is I can never see if it's working.
Yeah, it's working. At least from what I can see.
Oh, look at that. Knight takes g3. Let's analyze. What happened? Miscalculation.
Well, he played king h2 instead of h4 this game. And this was who flinches first. It was actually Jan-Krzysztof. And this might be where you called him an upstart earlier. We talked about his youthfulness. Right. This could be one of those moments where youthfulness backfires, because he felt like he was the one who needed to change the move order, get a new position. And I think it's still a pretty good position for White. But something, feels like it's gone a bit wrong for Jan-Krzysztof, because now the e5 pawn is more vulnerable. The knight on e4 looks very good. And this exchange of pawns, G for G,
by the way, that was a super
Black.
nice move, because there was a threat of rook g8, rook d8 winning the rook.
Nice. And now, the king will run to c6, and the pawn on c4 protects the rook on d3. Very, very good call there.
No, but I don't know that I mean, you really think this is still good for White? I think you made the right call when you said maybe this is where youth is showing, because h4 was played in game 2, everybody, and Jan-Krzysztof went on to win. c4, and only then did he bring the king up. The major difference here, h4 stopped the move g5. And this game, he didn't play it. He played the move king h2, and Hikaru didn't look back. He strikes with g5, trades on g3. I'm already feeling a little bit more confident that Hikaru can hold this one. Maybe not win, but I mean, this is, if e5 trades for f7, the active rooks and the knight in the center, to me, just like, this doesn't look like as good as what Jan-Krzysztof got in game 2.
I mean, so rook g to g7 here looks like an annoying threat with the c7 pawn hanging, but perhaps Black just has a draw by checking a bunch of times. That seems to be the way out here, because it's getting to be kind of dangerous territory after rook g to g7, because you can't afford to let these rooks just absolutely destroy the 7th rank. So rook d2 check probably, and rook then followed up. Actually, I don't see a clear-cut draw there. You might overestimating White's position.
I feel like you are, but I've been wrong before. Twice.
Rook G to G7, Rook D2 check. Okay, he goes Rook C8. Similar idea.
Okay, Hikaru, not quite sure. I think Black might wonder if you have more. The problem is not just that the pawn falls, but everybody that goes with it, the checks and the house, as they say.
I chose Rook to G7 rather than Rook C8 because now Rook D7 is a possibility.
Yeah, you wanted Rook G2, right?
No, I was going to move my king, but I thought now Rook D7 is possible so that you stop me from threatening your C7 pawn.
Yeah.
But what Jan-Krzysztof Duda is relying on here is the H pawn is an outside pass pawn in an endgame where Black, again, will have a harder time creating a pass pawn because those pawns are doubled over there on the queen side. So he's going to go Rook D8 check. Okay, he'll probably bring his Rook to D4. And then
the knight comes back to D6 after Rook D4. The Black Rook can come into E2. I guess the main thing for White is you'd love to move this bishop, Robert, from like H4 to D4. Right? You'd love to put the bishop on a central square where it defends and helps the H-pawn run up the board at the same time. So White's pieces are just lacking optimal sort of setup.
Right. And I think Rook D4 is, you want to share that square in some ways between the bishop and the rook.
Right.
But Rook D4, you're hitting the C4 pawn. If you go Knight D6, Bishop G3 comes in, and I can try to remove the guard of that
Bishop G3, pawn. Rook E2, you take D6, we trade. I guess my thought was maybe the second rank rook might be active enough. But, okay, B5 is nice. The main thing about holding C4 is if we talk about imaginary chess for White, if you could play imaginary chess for Black and just put this rook on E2, you're in fantastic shape. Well,
you also can put your knight on C5 into D3 as well to help out.
Yeah.
So I think A4 here, just to get rid of some of the queenside pawns, might be an option because I don't know if even Bishop F2 saying, please take me. Oh, your Rook E2 idea though. He just kind of walked into it. So he likes his H pawn. That's really what he's going for.
Yeah, he wants to push the H pawn. If he plays H4, Knight E6, the rook moves. Maybe White's fast enough. Here he comes.
Yeah.
That's always
the trouble.
H5 is next.
So
this was the right play by Duda, though, I think, to go all in on the H-pawn and hope the rook and knight can't coordinate in time.
Although H5, B4 for Black.
I love that move. H5, B4, and suddenly C3 is the fastest pawn.
Yeah, it just goes to show that, again, we always talk about this, quality of pawns more important than quantity. Yep. Sacrifice that B pawn to get the C pawn sprung free here.
Hikaru giving I'm going to look up in the air and pretend I'm confirming variations I've already calculated.
Hikaru's played very well in this endgame. I mean,
I'm surprised and impressed he went back for that Berlin that looked so bad, although, again, it was Duda who changed the game. So something tells me we haven't seen the last of that variation, Robert. Both sides won't be flinching yet.
Right, because I still believe in it from the White side. Of course, Hikaru is still believing it. From the Black side, he's done the preparation. He's done all the legwork to figure out how this position will go. And right now he's spending time, which, again, this is the right moment to spend time. This is an absolutely critical moment here, trying to figure out it's a pawn-by-pawn move race, right? The H pawn, the C pawn, trying to figure out, he goes King E5. Is that the best move? I'm not sure. But Rook F7, is played. And now the Rook looks a little better to me on F7 than it did on F6. Well,
yeah.
Wait, can you take
he only did it for this line here, right? Because the purpose of bringing
Can you take the knight, Danny? Is
that possible, did you miss that? No? You take the knight in H6 and you can't catch the pawn. Hikaru's looking up in the air. He's trying to recalculate those variations. So okay, the problem, everyone, is if Rook takes, King takes, H6, Rook moves, H7, you get back, but then Bishop D4 and it's lights out. But you know what's funny, Robert? Maybe you have enough pawns over here.
I think you do have enough pawns, actually.
You have King E4, King D3, and you get over Hikaru. That is deep in calculation Hikaru look right there. He was calculating that line, and I'm not sure it was going to pay off, but something like this. You get like C5 and B4 and King. I actually think Black was in time.
Wow, what a smart idea, though, by Jan-Krzysztof here.
King
F3, he trapped the knight. Oh,
wow. On the edge of the board, you can't play Knight F6 because Bishop D4, King E6, and you win the knight.
Oh, my gosh. So Jan-Krzysztof is, I was looking at this pawn running down the H file. He said, take that pawn, have at it, and let me trap your knight. It shows the dominance of a bishop over a knight.
The crazy part of this line is now that you're looking at variations where the knight's going to fall. Oh, no, he sacks the exchange.
Yeah, that's way smarter, right? You
don't that was resourceful right there, yeah. He's going to lose c7, but he immediately picks up the c3 pawn with a fork on e4. Okay, he goes for it.
Yeah, but you take a7 here, so you get to keep your a pawn. So this should probably be
a draw. Yeah.
Yeah. Just play a3. Okay, b4. You can't go a3 because knight b1 check. So b4 is possible here.
Knight a4 also works. You'll bring the king to b4.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Duda stops that with a3. But still, likely a draw. Now I know we started to touch on it, and then they grabbed our attention with some awesome moves. But what should Duda do? I think you push this on because you're the only one who can win. But overall, I mean, what is your strategy as far as time controls? If you were Duda's coach, what would you tell him about these kind of scenarios pre-match? Like, hey, dude, if you get these types of endings that could take like 5 minutes off the clock, maybe consider taking a draw and getting another blitz game. Would that be your advice as a coach, or would you say, no, dude, push it if you have it?
Normally, because he's playing Hikaru Nakamura, I would say get as many of the long time control games in as possible. And that's not to say that Hikaru is weak in this time control. Of course, he's an absolute monster. But then I think about him, like, how did Jan-Krzysztof Duda make it to the semifinals last year? He won his bullet segments against Sergei Karyakin and Alexander Grishuk.
Yeah.
And he won those by, very clear margins. It wasn't like he won by one game. He ended up coming back in the match down like 3 games, like winning 4 bullet games at the end of his match against Sasha Grishuk.
Right.
So, I think it's good not to have a defeatist attitude of, hey, if I'm, down a game going into bullet, I'm going to lose this match. So actually, I applaud him for just playing out these positions that he would if he was playing classical chess.
Yeah. Yeah, because, the psychological risk of having a predetermined mindset, I'm afraid of bullet, is then when you get to bullet, you've already sort of beaten yourself, right? And so you don't, I would say from a chess mindset, I would agree with you, even though I think originally I spent a lot of time thinking that if you're Duda, you want to make your move in the blitz time controls. You don't want to have the psychological mindset that you can't beat somebody in any time control, right? Unless you're me. And you just know you can't win in any time control. You're hoping to not get adopted. That's it.
That's why you have the adopted Dana show.
Thank you. But most people don't have that mindset. And the point is, I think that Duda makes the right play if he's trying to push. But I don't know. I mean, I think we say that it's the right kind of sports mindset, Robert. I do think there is something like if you were sitting down pre-match, and let's say the SEC was like all you focused on that week, I think you would have discussions, hey, you're going to reach these types of endings where, yes, you have a 2-result position. Normally you would push OTB. But if you're going to lose 5 minutes on the clock, consider the situation, right? I do think that's a worthy discussion, and we've talked to a lot of the players over these years. Guys like Grishuk and Hikaru, I think, have done a very good job having that kind of meta strategy in there. They're thinking in the gamesmanship of what they want to do in those cases, as we've talked to them in interviews.
No, absolutely, and it's important. And Jan-Krzysztof, I don't know exactly what he's thinking, but I do feel like he's a very confident player these days. He's earned it, and he's playing pretty well. I would say that last game was Hikaru was the one who was better throughout that game. So that was actually, even though Hikaru won, the game with white Hikaru won was also pretty good, but that game he just played and drew, I was very impressed by the quality of his play throughout. It really comes back to 2 moves from the last game. One move was this not playing h4, not repeating the line, and the game before that from Jan-Krzysztof playing knight takes b3 instead of knight c4. And I know that's chess jargon, but what I'm essentially saying is I felt that Jan-Krzysztof in critical moments has chosen now 2 straight games suboptimal strategies, whereas Hikaru has really turned on the jets after losing the first 2 games. It feels like he is the one who is gaining strength and gaining momentum, and this is a very critical game right now.
Agreed. Got to give Diamond member Vince Silden some more love. Despite purposely misspelling my name, he gave us a band name, the Rensch in the Machine. I like it. And he says, you realize this commentary is worth hours of coaching, right? Thank you. Thank you for your support there, Diamond member Vince Silden, and we love having you. Active Chess TV chat today. All right. We have an Alapin Sicilian. In fact, I just checked at the Chess.com ECO, and I was literally going to say it's kind of a delayed Alapin, and that apparently is what it's actually called, delayed Alapin Sicilian, because that's weird.
I didn't know that.
But, this is a delayed an Alapin structure, if we go to the analysis board real quick, everyone, is basically defined as you, rather than opening the center in an open Sicilian, which we've already seen, you purposely are making sure that when you get d4, you can take back with a pawn. So it's almost like playing for sort of a traditional Spanish structure, right? If you look at how white has developed the pieces here, it's kind of like you had a Ruy Lopez, the knight maneuvers, the bishop maneuvers, and you've created this structure where eventually you want to get the center, but you're hoping to keep it rather than trade it. And so this structure is I don't want to say unorthodox, very main line, but it's not open Sicilians for sure. And now in the live position, Robert, are we about to get everyone's favorite bad opening?
You mean the French?
But not quite. The bishop is already outside the structure over here on g6.
Yeah, it's more like a Hikaru Khan that's gone right for black. I like black's position, actually.
Yeah, I do too. The more I look at it, it's if you put this bishop on c8, I change my mind.
Well, a very important point is that white is not in time to play b4. So after bishop h7 here, you can't play b4 as there's a pin along the a file, which is extremely important to note.
Oh, I misheard you. I thought you were even saying d4, but there was a pin on the d pawn as well because of the queen trade and on the a file.
Right. But this is exactly what I was going to say. He's playing c4 now, saying, all right, I've kind of closed down the queen side. So I'll take on c2. And now it does look like a French, but a pretty good version for black because you trade off the light squared bishops and you can eventually play knight a5 to b3 or knight b6, queen a4, try to trade these queens off. And white is not able to break open the queen side because as soon as you play move like b3, then black takes over the vulnerable light squares on that side of the board. And it's just, this looks nice for black. I don't see an attack coming for white. Usually you move your knight and play f4, f5 is what Hikaru is trying for. But black can also try to make progress on the queen side at some moment by moving the knight from b6, playing b5, moving the knight into b3, play a5, b4, try to crash through on the queen side. So that's what this is all about right now, is which side can open up the position favorably and do it before the other side does.
Normally you would say that white in this type of attack with f4, f5 really loves it, especially if, somehow this king is over here. Then the potential of that goes way up. I think the biggest issue here is, and this is a very nice move, bishop h4. I like that. Is that Hikaru can't really just close his eyes and push and expect that that'll just automatically give an advantage because the king is safe even if you achieve f5, and black also has ways to continue to improve over here on the queen side. Whoa, look at this move, king h3.
Yeah, wow, he is getting active with that king. It's not an end game, but it's on h3 right now.
Keep going, baby. Get it to g4. That's awesome. The funny, it reminds me of the legendary Hikaru h3 facial expression, which is actually an emote in our channel there if you want to use it. The legendary h3. Okay, now e5's opened up for business. Somehow that trade has me liking white's chances more than I did before. The newly created target on e6, even with pieces in the way, is something you're worried about.
Yeah, I actually almost just blundered an exchange. I was going to say bishop d6 here, but knight f7 is a fork that looks pretty frustrating to deal with.
Yep. What happened there? Robert, we talk a lot about pawn structures in our show, and often the base pawn is so critical to maintaining a chain because if you move it, you're always creating positional weaknesses without exception. And so in this case, that pawn moves, which means e6 is going to become open. And I worry about that. I mean, it makes sense because you know what Duda was thinking? He's thinking, are you really bringing your king to h3? Like,
right.
I'm going to open up this side of the board and eventually slide this lady back, and you're going to regret this little journey you went on. But Hikaru doesn't care.
Yeah. I mean, the thing is, the king on h3 isn't that weak. It's hard to bring pieces into it, attack it. And now he's going to play g4, I think, and then bring the knight back out from h1 into g3. And do I totally believe in this? No, but I don't see a way for black to do anything to punish white's adventurousness.
Whether I believe in it or not, I believe in the power of Chess Bay and the gifted subs. Thank you so much. That's awesome.
Wow. Yeah,
Mystery gift subs. Use your new emotes if you have them. Get your Hikaru Nakamura facial expressions out. And thank you so much, Chess Bay. All right, we've got you know what we've got? We've got a crazy active show here today. We've got, across all of our platforms, we've got almost 9,500 viewers, more than that. A lot of people tuning in here. Thanks for being with us. This is a huge event right now. Obviously, we've got the one, the only Hikaru Nakamura trying to show why he's the #1 seed in the Speed Chess Championship. Knight d7's a fork.
Oh, that is just totally missed by...
Did he just miss that?
Yeah, he did.
Knight d7. Oh, and Duda shook his head like, oh, thank God he didn't see it.
Wow, I didn't see it at first either. You said knight d7. Like, what are you talking about?
Because the knight blocked off the queen's protection. It was a blunder that neither saw coming. Analysis board to the Batcave. Knight to d7 was not possible, and this is what we call mutual blindness in chess, where both players just forget that attack. I mean, this was not a choice by Hikaru. This was just a straight up blunder. This just wins on the spot with e6 falling.
Yeah, and I don't want to harp on this too much.
Wow.
But we had the same situation in Giri versus Duda. Right, there were numerous games where there was mutual blindness between those two players.
Right, and Giri ultimately went home in that match.
Yep.
I mean, so you don't want that to be the case if you're Hikaru Nakamura. You don't want to miss your chances while you have them.
Well, he went for it. I mean, you have to give him credit. He put his king on h3. He started pushing his king side pawns. He said, I don't care about the weak squares that you could infiltrate on the queen side because you're not actually making that much progress. And look what he's done.
By the way, this move bishop h4 was awesome.
Yeah.
Again,
just take that knight.
The e6 pawn is pinned. He can trade and win e6. And guess who walked their king to h3 and lives to tell about it?
I thought you were gonna, make a Nigel Short reference at first, but then I looked at the current position and realized, well, that's actually Hikaru Nakamura.
No, Nigel goes all the way to h6.
Yeah, that's true. He's not afraid at all.
Yeah. Quoting the legendary game Nigel Short, Jan Timman. Seriously, Google that right now. Go to chessgames.com. One of the best chess games of all time. Nigel Short, Jan Timman, the legendary king walk. Queen e6. Okay, queen f2 does the trick as well because the e7 pawn is still... Okay, I think queen e6 was better, but Hikaru's going to win this one anyway. Look at the clock. Jan-Krzysztof has 5 seconds. 2 minutes for Hikaru. We're going to have a tied match most likely after this game.
Yep.
Short of an epic blunder that Hikaru might be about to make, but otherwise no.
Yeah, it looks pretty hard to. I mean, unless you mate yourself somehow, like rook f6, queen e4, and don't see queen h1.
Well, I was just about to say, watch out for queen h1. Hikaru sees it though and says, "You got nothing, kid." Rook f8, game over. Red Rover, send Jan-Krzysztof right over. We have a tied match. You know what else we have coming up? The Puzzle Battle World Chess Championship. Guess who committed to play in that? Hikaru Nakamura. I say play. You know what we got to say in that when we do commentary, Robert?
What?
Solve.
True.
This is not a traditional World Chess Championship. This is the first of what we hope to become an annual and forever thing. The qualification rules, if you happen to be watching, anybody who does Puzzle Rush on Chess.com can qualify. Just record yourself doing it, submit it with a 35-plus score, and we will deem you basically worthy of playing in the qualification tournament that will ultimately fill out our bracket of 16. Guys like Hikaru Nakamura, Maxime Vacher-Lagrave, Ali Reza Firouzja, to name a few big names, are in the event already as seeded players. Anyway, there you go. And wow. Oh, look at those two guys. Apparently we'll have commentary there too. Look at how they just threw that image together real quick. We look good there, buddy. Have you been working out?
No. I've been working out my chess commentary muscles, though.
You know what? You're wearing that same shirt from that picture.
I am.
Oh, my gosh.
What a coincidence.
All right. So now, okay. now we've got the same game as game 2. Okay. Fun fact, everybody. If you're just joining us, Jan-Krzysztof Duda won game 2 and was up 2-0 in this match. And this was the exact position on the board. So what does Hikaru have ready to improve here? I don't know. I'm going to back up real quick because now we've seen... In game 4, Jan-Krzysztof played the move King G2 here on the analysis board. Or sorry, King H2. And Hikaru struck nicely with G5 and then knight takes G3, overwhelming the bishop. Hikaru ultimately went on to draw that game with black pretty easily. In the games where Jan-Krzysztof has played H4 to stop G5, he seems to be getting an edge, kind of like our live position now, Robert. So the question is, why is Hikaru going for this line if he's already been outplayed pretty badly once in it?
I think that this time he blinked first, right? The last time the same thing here. He could have played G5. He should have played G5. And I cannot comprehend why Jan-Krzysztof Duda is playing King H2 before H4. It just doesn't make sense to me.
Yeah, no, it was really, you said it in that game. You said this is where the youth and inexperience is paying off, that Jan-Krzysztof kind of overthought the situation, right? Instead of just throwing it back at Hikaru and saying, dude, show me your improvement. He improved, and ultimately it didn't pay off.
Right, well, because G5 was good for black, I thought. It, looks way better than this does. I'm looking at this position. I know Jan-Krzysztof's the one spending time, but the elements that I see, white can start pushing pawns on the king side at some moment, and that is going to frustrate Hikaru.
And here it
pawn
comes
E5
now.
is such a thorn in black's side because the bishop on f4 just protects it. The only way you can really get rid of it is by playing f6 at some moment. I would play rook a to d1 here to try to trade off this active rook, and then say, well, if you let my
I was
rook
going to say, why not go for g4? I've stopped. Okay, g4, knight h4, king g3. Your knight is almost trapped.
But there's g5 again. This
and you force me to en passant. You dirty dog, forcing me to go French. En passant. Let's show that. G5, anchoring, and then if I en passant, the knight gets out and hits e5. That's classic Hess, tricking Danny.
Wasn't my fault. You tricked yourself.
Don't you talk. Don't you shut your mouth when you're talking to me.
Well, then you're going to have to carry the show all by yourself.
You already make fun of me in front of 10,000 people on a regular basis, you know. Isn't that enough?
No, it hurts me to see you upset, so I'm going to take it back.
Okay, rook d1. Rook b5 was the other option to hit b2, but I guess just what, rook d2 was going to stop that? No biggie?
Yeah, mate. Oh. So, okay, he just went for g5. He's trying to undermine the protection of this pawn e5.
But en passant happens. That's a good bumper sticker. En passant happens.
That's actually awesome.
Oh, we should do that. Can we get a bumper sticker department going on Chess.com?
That would be pretty sweet. But this note else is sweet is this knight on e4. It's back to where it belongs.
Yeah, I like it. Control, 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 control.
And again, I keep saying this. I know I'm just repeating myself, but the 4-on-3 on the queen side is not really that advantageous for black because of the double pawns. And here comes the white king. He learned from Hikaru. He said, your king was going up in h3, and here it is.
I'll raise you one. Don't tell John Locke what he can't do. Here comes the king. Again, and I know this game isn't over. Jan-Krzysztof is also down a minute, by the way. We should highlight that. But this is not the Berlin you want to keep getting if you're Hikaru. Now, on the other hand, from a practical point of view, Berlins take a lot of time off the total clock. I don't know. Maybe he's just trying to milk the 5-minute portion here. As we see, we have about 38 minutes left there in your lower left corner. So Hikaru giving himself the favorite nod in the faster time controls. Maybe he likes the Berlin, even if he's groveling.
I haven't enjoyed watching his positions from the black side of the Berlin, but he definitely has faith in his preparation. But look at this position. I mean, your king is on
great
f5.
For Duda. No, Duda's playing knight f6. This is just good. Good for white.
And what really highlights the problem of having the double pawns, if you play knight c5 as black, and I just simply trade knights, you just look at an endgame where white will try to push the g pawn up the board and get one of those pawns as a clear pass pawn. Right? A pass pawn.
I actually really like your plan because you can go all the way to g6 and undermine the protection of the knight.
Yeah, I mean that's what I do. If you won't go knight c5, I'll just push my g pawn to get after your knight anyway, and it just looks. This looks
fantastic for Duda, and you can see also the practical dynamics starting to favor Duda because Hikaru's time advantage is much lower than it was. Here comes g4, g5. Yeah, he does it. Okay, that's a creative solution. Rook d5 offers the fix, everybody. You're saying if you trade, I get to undouble these two pawns and then maybe push d4 myself.
But let's say we do. I mean, if we go to the back cave for
let's do it.
Second here.
To the back cave.
If we take on d5, it's a very forcing line. Rook d5, c d5, knight f6 check.
Yep, takes.
Pawn takes f6.
d4.
I take you on d4. You take with a knight, now king e4. Like, am I going to just win your queenside pawns with my king?
Yeah, that's a good point. I mean, yeah, Hikaru kind of making a smudge face. That's a rare one. That's Hikaru number 19, the smudge.
Smudge, I like
the smudge. Shout out to Platinum member Spirit Rapper in the Chess TV chat who came up with another one, a bumper sticker that says "Fork You" with a knight on it. I love it. So at one point I came with an idea of a bunch of chess t-shirts, and Eric, my partner at Chess.com, said, Danny, we don't run a t-shirt company. And that was the end of that discussion.
Hey, but merch is always good.
Anyway, all right, so knight c7 is played. The problem for Hikaru is that the g-pawn is still running, and he's shaking his head. This is just not a great... If you're playing to get victories here in the 5 minutes, Hikaru, the Berlin has got to go. Right? I mean, he drew that one game because Duda messed up, but I'll be surprised if we see this again now.
Yeah, e6. Okay, he was knight f6 check. I was saying e6 is a spring for the g pawn, right? You often want the pawn that's furthest away from the rest of the action.
Yeah.
So if he had played e6 there, and let's say Hikaru took on e6, and then Duda takes the king, the g pawn now is the outside pass pawn, which will take all of black's resources to stop it from becoming a new queen, and then white will switch flanks and go over to the queen side. Here, king e5, I think, is now I'm throwing king d6 and king d4.
I think maybe the reason e6 didn't come was because of knight e3 check kind of intermezzo.
G6.
Oh, in the live position? Oh, he has g6 and it's over.
No, but knight g4 check.
Oh, sweet. The fork saves the day.
But it's winning for white. King f5, knight takes h6, king g5.
You gotta be kidding me.
Oh my gosh, this is winning.
He sees it. He sees it.
Gosh.
Hikaru, he's like, that hurt. Look at this trick, everybody. Jan-Krzysztof, he's flexing. Man, he just wants to go flex. Sacrifice the bishop. King comes next. # Post Malone. Chess rhyme you didn't see coming.
Wow, I cannot believe you just quoted Post Malone here.
Dude, I took my kid to a Post Malone concert. Don't judge my parenting. He puts on a good show.
I'm not, but thank you also to Sawyer 9 times here, saying Danny Rensch and Robert Hess are my 2 all-time favorite commentators.
Wow, thank you. Man, Duda did just flex on that. But again, okay, the Berlin, what's the match strategy here? We know Hikaru has played Berlin in a lot of over-the-board chess as well, the Berlin for the both sides. But everyone remembers the epic MVL Hikaru match from SCC a couple of years ago where they played like 17 Berlins or something, and it was all deep theory. And for those who say that Speed Chess doesn't contribute to high-quality elite games, they're just wrong, right? There's a lot of theory being played here because these guys take these matches seriously. But I don't like it from a practical choice, and I appreciate Duda's willingness for the fight. He's just going to play mainline theory as white, and he's 2 out of 3, 2.5 out of 3 now on the white side of the Berlin.
No, he's 2. He lost the game, right?
No, he drew that game. Remember? It was 2.5 out of 3 because Hikaru didn't win it.
Yeah. He trapped the knight on the side of the board.
Yeah, so it's 2.5 out of 3 for Duda in the Berlin. I think it's time to go away from that.
I agree. I haven't liked it at all, and I think that Hikaru is trying to neutralize Jan-Krzysztof, and I think that when we get into the quicker time controls, he's definitely going to stop playing the Berlin and start playing sharper things where he feels like he has the edge because there's fewer minutes for Duda to start calculating things. But right now, in this position, I think that black has a good position, especially out of an opening, because look at how much control black has over many advanced squares. B4 is now under attack. Now he has control of the semi-open D file, and he can play very simple moves. He can play a move like A4 at some point, but he can also play Queen E7, Rook D8, decide later where that bishop on C8 belongs. The position just looks really nice.
He goes for that plan. I like how you say decide later, because I think that's instructive for those looking for those accidental Robert Hess teaching moments. They happen a lot. The lines that are open on both sides of the board mean that actually E6 and A6 are always available for the bishop. And so if you can prioritize developing other pieces and coordinating to put pressure on other critical squares, you don't have to always go back to classical chess principles of getting that bishop off the back rank just to connect the rook. So accidental teaching Robert Hess moment brought to you by Robert Hess.
I was wondering who you were going to say it was brought to you by.
It was kind of brought to them by me, but yeah, go ahead.
Oh, I see you taking credit.
No, I'm like the GM translator. You say things. I'm like, you know how Obama had that angry translator, Key and Peele?
Yeah, that was awesome.
I'm like your chess translator to Obama's to Key and Peele's angry Obama.
Okay, I can dig that.
We should do a show like that, by the way. You say something, and then I step in and get real inappropriate. Wait, isn't that this show?
Yeah, I was going to say, isn't that
That's pretty much all the time.
That's pretty much all the time. That's our producer there in the background. Yeah. Anyway, thanks for being with us. We've got about 11,000 of you right now just in English. And we are also covering every Speed Chess Championship match in multiple languages. I think we even have Polish today, Robert, in honor of Jan-Krzysztof Duda being one of the participants.
Well, I hope the Polish team can translate what Jan-Krzysztof just did, because knight e8 walks right into knight b3, and down goes the c5 square. And
he's shaking his head. He knows it. Let's back up to the analysis board and show everybody what just happened. So this position, knight e8, is a weird, subtle one-move blunder, because the point is knight b3 is not a threat as long as this knight can go to d7 and just guard c5.
Yep.
But as soon as the knight does one false step to e8, you don't have to ask Hikaru twice to spot a tactic, and c5 is falling.
And with c5, the entire position feels like it's collapsing, right? And that's not just one pawn. It's like, well, now my knight is jumping into c5, so your bishop on a6 is going to be miserable. If you play c4 to start with, I can just take your pawn on c4 and then put my knight into c5 anyway, and not good. Not good at all.
Yeah, that's a big moment. It's going to be a big win for Hikaru because, again, if I was Hikaru's coach flipping sides here for a minute rather than advice we'd give to Duda, I would say that as long as he keeps this close and the faster time controls, he'll be fine. So, and of course, we'll catch up with the players as we always do after the match and get their thoughts on what their match strategies were.
Wow. Okay, I guess he was saying if you took on c5 with the knight, he was going to play knight d4. So that's why he took with the bishop on c5. I would have preferred to take with the knight, of course, but Duda had some tricks up his sleeve, apparently. You can tell I'm not confident in that.
Meaning, you think if I take with the knight, you had a trick?
Yeah,
maybe knight d4?
That's what I was saying. Exactly.
Something like that.
So instead, he takes the bishop, and is there compensation down this semi-open c file? Can I play a4 to kick your knight away from b3 now? And maybe it's not so bad for Duda after all. I mean, it's not good, but it might not be the worst position possible.
Well, the problem is he's also down 2 minutes on the clock now to go with it, and I think he's undeniably worse. The question is, will he find some compensation? This knight can even move to a1. Okay, he goes here, but I think he'll go to a2 and b4 anyway. My idea was a1, c2, and b4. But this is better for Hikaru because it also will protect. He'll play bishop b4, and then when the knight comes here, he's protecting. Yeah, he does it.
Nice. And yeah, if you take knight takes b4, just bishop b7, the c3 pawn still is vulnerable.
Weak. No, yeah. Knight b4, bishop b7. You probably have to settle on rook c1 just to guard the pawn. Yeah, Hikaru does that. Maybe. Okay, now the question is, when do we put a pony on d5? Okay, I like this idea, Robert. He's playing bishop g2. I think he wants knight d2 to open up the bishop, and then he's going to put the knight on d5.
Okay.
You buying it? No?
No, I'm definitely buying it, and I think that white is better. Knight d2 is a very good move. I'm into that. And I'm not sure how much better white is because look at the pawn a3. As soon as you go knight d5 and I rewrite my bishop to f8, the pawn a3 does feel, and look at the queen on e7 now.
No, I was just highlighting that. I agree.
So it feels like black is much better than I would have expected him to be, considering that he just, lost a pawn many moves ago now.
Rook c5. That's a nice move. Again, you're just trying to both overprotect d5, everyone, and prepare to double rooks, hitting black's target over here on c3, white's weakness. Okay, I still like knight d2, and I liked it before, because the main thing is when the knight d5 trade happens, I open up the e4 square. Hikaru has gone in for making Harry a real wizard over here on the h-file. But
so
now what?
The good news is he can play queen b2 or d2, and queen c7 is my bishop h3, kicking your rook off the c-file, because otherwise the pressure on the c3 pawn is too much. But with the inclusion of bishop h3 as a possibility, now all of a sudden I'm not allowing black to pile up the pressure.
Yeah, I like that. Duda sees it, moves the rook off of that c8 square.
How about your move knight d5 now?
I like it. I love it. In fact, now that the rook's on c5, if knight d5 takes and bakes, we have pins coming on d4 because of the e-pawn. Okay, he doesn't do it. Hikaru playing very patiently in this particular game.
Yeah, he also is up a good deal of time, so he doesn't need to force any of the issues here. The problem with playing too patiently sometimes is that you allow your opponent to get a pretty good setup, and then you're not able to, really take a extra pawn and promote that into more of an advance. With bishop h3 here, you can play, just kick this rook off of the c8 square. There it is.
I love that.
Rook f8 I would play. Just swing over to the king side.
Yeah. He does it. But here comes the d5 square. He wants two ponies on it.
Ooh, that's really nice, actually. I think you have to get aggressive on the king side for Duda. You have to play like h5, h4. You have a dark square bishop that's not doing anything.
Yeah.
So get that bishop to h6, play h4, start breaking open the king side.
Knight
f7 is a similar idea, right? Let me just actively go aggressive and now the f3 square. If you allow me to go knight f3 check, and I take off your fianchetto bishop, your king feels a lot weaker.
Yeah, it's a good point, too. You're highlighting using the one bishop the white doesn't have, right? The dark squares are the main issue if you can make something of that. The problem is if you're Duda, you're down a lot on the clock, and so Hikaru, as in typical fashion, gets to kind of use time when it matters the most to find accurate moves. He doesn't want to let you fork on f3.
But now that knight h2, right? That's the thing, is when you make him with a knight h2, you're stopping your opponent's threat, but putting your piece on a bad square. Next move, bishop c8. Like, you can play bishop c8 to go knight h3 check.
Oh, I like that a lot. Bishop c8. You're also threatening bishop. Oh, queen b3. That's a move. Queen b3, wow. You're hitting a3.
Now, that looks like a hanging pawn, right?
Yeah. And it's one of those awkward hanging pawns. That's like a computer find.
Wait, but c4. The queen's going to get trapped. Don't I trap your queen with c4?
Did he just go Ali Reza?
I'm looking at. I was like, wait, the queen looks
C4,
like it's great.
Queen a3, rook a1, queen b3, rook b1. Lights out, lady. Oh, gosh, he doesn't see it.
I think it might have trapped the queen.
To the back cave, real quick. C4.
Well, Duda has to be real quick. He's 10 seconds and counting down right now. But
I'm just
C4
showing the line.
Like
I don't know how you stopped that. All right, we'll come back to the live game, but seriously, that was an interesting find. Maybe Hikaru missed. It may not matter because of the time pressure that Duda's gotten himself in here.
Yeah, and so does rook a1 still trap the queen? Rook a1,
queen b3, rook b. Oh wait, he looks to the side. Hikaru sees something. Let's look, see if we can see it.
Well, I think that does trap the queen, but then he realizes that Jan-Krzysztof is going to like bishop takes d5 after rook e to b1,
and then take on b3, and you actually have a lot of compensation there.
You really do. That past a pawn is frustrating to deal with.
Okay, wow, he's going to go for it. I was just going to say let's go to the back cave, but we don't have to because they're about to do it. He sacrificed the queen. We're seeing it on the board.
I honestly think this position is easier to play for black.
Yeah. No, that was one of those weird accidental blunders, and with only 10 seconds, Jan-Krzysztof still has a chance.
That a-pawn is really fast.
Now he's got two connected passers. Wow, if this one gets away from Hikaru, that would be a huge turnaround.
Just play rook c4 and take on d4, right? Okay, trades the rooks. So he's clearly banking on his a-pawn to provoke. Oh, but the mate, knight f6 check is coming.
Knight f6, and then the 8th rank. In fact, now you can even... Are you winning the race with d5, a3, d6, a2? You get d7 with tempo.
Yeah, that's... Oh, but look at this. That's fancy.
Oh, maybe just as good, if not better. Now e5 blocks up the bishop scope. Oh, I thought he would play e5 there.
Look at Jan-Krzysztof. He's losing this anyway, but at least he's super resourceful, right?
Yeah. Okay, queen b5 should be good enough.
This a-pawn, but
if a3 right away, you take the bishop, right? I think queen b5...
Right. That's very true.
So if a3, queen b3.
The a-pawn is providing some compensation, but just queen takes b5 here means the a-pawn can't push. But look at Hikaru getting down to 10 seconds. It's a pure just bullet
Hikaru's connection is out of control.
Oh, no.
Oh, he's at one bar.
Oh, no, he better get back on. No way.
Oh, my gosh.
Oh.
That's the hotel internet.
Oh, no.
Where is Hikaru right now? We almost never see him not playing with the red wall and the fan in his hair. He's clearly on the road.
Oh, my gosh.
Hikaru's connection is gone, and we have drama, everybody. This might be the first time we've ever seen Hikaru playing on a bad connection.
Wow. And if he is playing from New York, I guess I'm sorry for taking up all the good connection in New York. But, hey, and then Jan-Krzysztof and Hikaru switch places. That's cool.
Jan-Krzysztof is smiling, knows that he stole one there. Wow.
I mean, what to make of this? Also, what's going on now? Because the game hasn't started, so I guess Hikaru's...
I don't think Hikaru's back online yet.
But what's the regulations for that? Okay, of course we try to give the players as,
If there's a disconnect, we pretty much give them as much time as they need to get back. But if they lose a game in the process of the disconnection, the game stands. So
got it.
Basically, that result will stand. And if you disconnect, even if he was offline for 10 or 15 minutes, we would do everything we could to get them back. But if you lose a game because of a bad connection, the result stands.
Oh, that totally makes sense, right?
Yep.
The connection is up to you. That's your responsibility, right? I don't think anyone would dispute that. It's unfortunate, of course. And
and honestly, if this comes down to a coin flip, that kind of game right there is Oh wow, we see the face palm smacks from our solo chatter over there on Mixer. Oh wait, no, again, that's not Mixer. I forget. No one's on Mixer. That's right.
So the bad thing right now is Hikaru is
Nobody's
down
on Mixer but Ninja. Just you know.
The bad thing is Hikaru is down 2 games right now. The good thing for him is that the 2 games he's down is one, he was just completely winning, and the first game of the match he blundered a piece on a mouse slip. So it's like by quality of play, he's not really
by
down
quality
anything.
of play, he's even and doing fine, right? And again, you just hope it's not a continued storyline, right? We see he's still even now only back to a 2-bar connection.
Yeah, but he might turn into Bruce Banner, and nobody likes Hikaru when he's mad, right?
No one likes Hikaru when he's angry.
You don't want to face him.
It's like you when you're hangry. You're literally like that Snickers commercial where you turn into a diva. Did you know that? We got to feed you.
Firstly, I am not like a diva, so don't overemphasize me and my hungry states. I'm not hungry right now. I had a salad before we started this commentary.
What kind of salad was it?
I'm not telling you. You don't get to know the information. That's personal.
Was it like a cranberry salad with like nuts?
No.
No.
It absolutely was not.
Okay.
It had kale, avocado, some corn in it. It's pretty good.
Well, we've lost Hikaru right now on webcam. He is still connected to Chess.com's live server from what we can see. We will work to get him back. Right now we've got, what do we have here? We've got a weird and awkward opening.
Well, we have
this is
dark
one of those,
square control.
Yeah, this is not a good way to rebound after a disconnected loss. Sometimes when you lose a game like that, you're frustrated. You play the next opening kind of without thinking. #guilty. But this is not a recipe here. This is bad structure stuff.
Yeah, the thing is, though, it's not really easy to pierce through it, and that's always the annoying thing, because I've had both sides of this type of position before, and b5, no, that I'm not into that move. That feels like you're opening things up, or not, apparently. But is that bishop on a3 going to be trapped? But how does white make progress now that you've closed the position down?
How does white make progress? You're asking me a real question here.
Yes, I am. Do you play king h2 eventually, try to bishop g4 and push your g pawn and just start opening up the king side?
Oh, I had an idea, and I think it's why you played bishop b4.
Queen b2 though, right?
I think white's progress was to move the rook and bring the knight to b1 and trap the bishop.
He was, but now queen b2 just traps the... Oh, queen b2, a4, and I go a3. I think this is terrible for black.
Yeah, a3, bishop back, b4.
No, not b4.
Oh, you just take it. Take it.
Exactly, and then I go queen b7.
Let's show it. Queen b2, a4, a3, you back up, and we just blow this thing open.
Yeah, this is bad news.
Party on the b file. Yeah, this is a bad opening. And again, that happens, I think, again, it's kind of a tilt opening. That's what you want to avoid if you're Hikaru, right? Is getting into a tilt situation where you're kind of frustrated because you have a bad connection. Although right now, look, his connection has stabilized. If you're looking at that 4-bar situation on the screen there next to his username. So he has stabilized his connection right now, which is a good sign. Maybe we'll have him back on camera soon. A4 now, okay, it's going to be the same problem for Hikaru.
Yeah, because now white is going to rip open the queen side, take with the rook on b3, and then play a bishop a5, play a4, and I don't care about my pawn for the time being. I'll get my rook onto the b7 square. It's just this type of position you definitely do not want.
No, but again, it's not surprising. We keep saying it's a bad opening. It is a bad opening. Like, this is not a recipe for playing high-level SCC chess, and Hikaru can get away a lot of times with this type of approach and, like, bullet, right? But this is... I think he switched away from the Berlin, and right now he's trying to find that next black opening he's going to use against Duda's e4, Robert. But he hasn't found it yet.
But it's too early to get desperate. And this is not purely desperate, or this is a legitimate opening that is objectively better for white. But the more you sort of jockey for space and just let the pieces kind of tell the tale of the position, and not too many trades generally happen, the problem for black is when trades happen like this, and now rook b7 comes. Look at that king on e8. Okay, he went rook a3. He's still going to open the position for his pieces. I like rook b7, but rook a3 is probably even better. And look at that dark square bishop. It's terrible. Look at the pawn h4. It's vulnerable. Just good news for
Jan-Krzysztof. And I think Hikaru will recover from that. But what I meant is it's a tilt based on what just happened with the disconnect, right? It's too early in the match situation to tilt. I agree with you. Like, he's only down 2 games. And like you said, from a chess perspective, Hikaru has played just fine, right? He's lost a game that he was winning because of a disconnect, and he lost a game because of a mouse slip. But it doesn't matter. The scoreboard is what matters. And right now, you don't want to take a bad approach strategically because of those kind of unfortunate circumstances.
Yep. But this is just, look at this bishop on c7, right? Doing absolutely nothing. You can even play queen a8, rook a7, queen b7, and
this is not ideal. Not ideal is a scientific term I coined. Title of my autobiography.
Oh, yeah. I'm just looking at this position, and it comes from kind of different openings, right? There is the opening played in this game, the modern, the Gurgenidze, but it also happens in certain d4 openings, like the Harwitz, is that what it's called? Where sometimes black just gets totally cramped on the queen side, and white just eventually breaks through, and it's all bad news over there. So, queen b7, rook a7, pretty natural moves to come here. White can always play bishop g4 to try to take this knight off f5 and get the h4 pawn to fall.
This is just such a painful position, and as Smarter Chess, a wise man once said, even a good connection can't save a bad opening. So Hikaru may have fixed his connection, but he's still in trouble here.
Yeah, this is
rook a7.
Bad news.
Euler. Rook a7, knight b4. I mean, Hikaru needs to just kind of milk this one to gather his kind of nerves, right? Because at this point, this is going to be. Is this the first ever 3-game deficit Hikaru has ever faced to someone who's not named Magnus Carlsen?
That's a great question. Hopefully Smarter Chess can get us an answer to that.
Yeah, we're going to check into that. Hikaru doesn't go down 3 games in Speed Chess Championship matches very often, but we could be about to see it. And the recovery needs to head into main line. All right. Well, rook e7, I'm expecting knight b4 here.
No, knight b4 would have been a big blunder because bishop takes e5.
Oh, I was kidding. LOL, let's show it on the analysis board. Okay, that works. But right here, that would be how I lose a winning position. Knight b4, because it's unstoppable that I win c6, and then you take here with a discovery on my queen, and I lose. Although what's funny is white's position is still so good, you could take and take e5, and who's better here? Just saying. But, again, unnecessary, right? The way he's taken the approach to get 2 pieces for the rook, the c6 pawn is still a problem. And
so is the
Duda's
white
position
king.
Is still great.
The white king is a problem here.
Really?
Queen a7, queen a1. I mean, what's happening here?
Flipping the script? If this is a rebound game, then brush your shoulders off, Hikaru Nakamura. Because Jay-Z wants his comeback back. Yeah.
What?
Well, I don't know.
Watch out, because queen a1 is absolutely deadly. So you might have to try to make a draw somehow with queen d8, queen f6.
But I know you hate me, but going back to knight b4, are you serious? I'm serious. White is better in that position.
Instead
bishop
of queen
e5,
c8,
queen d7, knight d7, f takes e5. I'm winning c6. And
we'll agree to disagree.
You disagree?
Yeah, white is definitely not better there.
This is a good queen sack here.
At the very least, black can play queen g5 after f takes e5 and have queen c1, queen f4 as a draw, and something like that.
You're gonna bail out for a draw even by just giving me your knight?
I'm saying at the very least, and
okay, that might be at the very best.
No.
All right, we're gonna have this argument off air when no one's watching.
Oh, Danny.
All right, well, Hikaru, to his credit, has completely turned it around, and look at that time advantage, up 2 minutes to 30 seconds.
He's winning now. Rook takes e1.
Yeah, rook takes e1, and we got mate on the dark squares, right?
Yep.
Somebody called the ambulance.
Rook e1, knight e1, knight g3. Don't even take the knight back. Oh, wait. Is this also mate?
Whoa.
Okay, this might also be mate.
Okay.
But knight g3 was just ending the game. Oh, but knight g3, there was queen d8, so maybe that's why he didn't do it. Gosh, chess is complicated.
Yeah, but it looks like he's going to convert on this one. The fans can't see Duda yet, but they will soon. We can see him. He's a little bit disturbed by how that one turned around.
Oh, look at this knight c2 move. You take
No, but I
if
think you have
on
knight F1 check and then queen C1.
Exactly, because if you take on
Yeah.
C2, then
Yeah,
queen
he
D8
finds
will
it.
hold.
Hikaru found it.
Too strong.
Too strong, too fast. That was, well, not my nickname in high school, but I'm sure someone had it.
You had many nicknames, but that sadly was not one of
Okay.
them. Maiden one.
Ooh, queen E2 is mate. Dude, how did that turn around? Seriously, that was literally, you said it, and now chat is quoting you. Hikaru is angry. You won't like me when I'm angry.
You definitely don't want to play Hikaru when he's angry.
Yeah, that is a game Duda's going to want to forget very soon. Because that did not go as planned.
Not even a little bit. He had that game. It was just crushing.
Duda was completely winning. Let's actually bring back the analysis board real quick when we have a moment. And just to show why we're kind of so shocked. I mean, regardless of my argument that I'll win later with Robert, that knight b4, queen sack probably was just fine for white. Regardless of that, there's no way this variation, where you have the two pieces for the rook and you've dominated the whole way, should not still be better for white. But even if you don't go queen c8, Robert, or knight b4, like another move, rook a8, anything that just maintains the bind, black is just groveling here.
Yep.
Just crazy how quickly, and again, credit to Hikaru that he chose a bad opening mid-tilt. And what I mean by that was, it's not an insult to Hikaru, it's he was very frustrated. He lost the game because of connection, kind of, struggling with his camera, there, everything that was happening, and he lost that game. So he chooses, this horrible opening that we criticize, where black is probably clearly worse starting as early as move 10. Like, these lines are just not recipes for success against super GMs like Duda. But then he comes all the way back, and eventually, look at this position, dude. How did black win this game?
Yeah, it's absolutely nuts. But speaking of tilt and black getting better positions, I mean, look at the position right now. I think Hikaru, what is this opening? Like, I do not believe in white's position in the game we're currently seeing right now.
Okay, I'm back at it. I'm focused on I'm still shocked that Hikaru managed to recover from that, but he's still down a game, and you're saying, as I look at it now, that he seems to still be kind of choosing tiltable openings.
Yeah, like, this is the kind of opening where he might play this against a much lower rated opponent, saying, I'm going to get compensation, play against these double E pawns. But against someone like Jan-Krzysztof Duda, it just doesn't feel correct. There's so many different options here, right? Black can play queen d6, then decide if you want to reroute your knight to protect the e6 pawn. So you can play a move like knight e8 to c7 if you really want to keep the pawn and also threaten pawn e6 to e5 at the right moment. Any knight move from f6 stops white from playing d3 to d4, which cements that pawn e6. So I'm not buying this. I'm really not buying this.
Yeah, no, this is one of those sacks you make on e6. Kind of, again, I've used the term before. It's kind of a bullet opening, maybe, right? But black has plenty of time to really figure out how to best consolidate with these doubled e pawns, and I don't think it should be too hard. You've got great control over the center, and as you said, you're just up a pawn.
Yep.
So, wow.
So let's see. What is Hikaru going to do here? So he went knight e8, which I think stops d4, right? You have the knight and bishop now teaming up in the square to prevent it.
Yeah.
And
but this is nice because you also open the F file. And Chewblaka in the Chess TV chat says, Hikaru hasn't moved a muscle. Amazing self-control.
Yeah, he's very stoic, right? All right, so
really got his poker face on that guy.
Oh, exchange sack immediately. Rook takes f4.
Yeah,
Here it is.
This is going to be good for Duda, but Hikaru again playing quickly, up a minute on the clock already, and that's his game plan that kind of worked out last game. He was worse, but managed to hold on, and in time pressure, he actually swindled a victory there.
Yeah, and the last game we understood his opening, right? It was just full tilt mode, he was just fighting for a victory from move one, and even if it was a risky opening that turned out very badly for him, you knew his intentions. This game, I'm not so sure. Maybe he'll get out of this and his position will end up being okay. But this e5, e6 thing that just looked good for black, and he might ultimately show off his speed chess prowess and even win a game of this nature, but it just doesn't feel like the correct opening.
Yep.
And this is coming from somebody who plays many incorrect openings, right? I was a close Sicilian player.
I'm glad you said it, because I was about to talk to you about that.
we've talked about this many times. You are a close descendant hater. You've given me so much grief about it. You made me cry when I was 8 years old.
First of all, you were like 13 at least. Okay.
I also didn't
Somehow
cry.
that didn't sound any better for me. That didn't make me sound any better, but okay. To be fair, Robert was like 2,500 when he was 13, so who was really being abused there? All right, bishop to c8. Just keep it on the board. There you go. You guard e6.
Honestly, black can consider taking e5 at some point because ideally white would keep the e file open to try to apply pressure on the e6 pawn. Now I'm definitely not taking e5, but if it was a queen trade being offered, then black would be happy to swap queens as end games look totally pleasant. Oh, is he trying to? Okay, so he went knight f6. So he's just trying to get in the end game, trade off some pieces. Say my e pawn. If you take on d6, I'll be able to protect the e pawn with my rook, if necessary. So bishop takes f6 or rook takes f6. Probably rook takes f6. The
Both
bishop
are
belongs
fine.
in h6.
I think both are actually fine. I think black is still in pretty good shape.
Yeah, I just like the other game, right? I want the bishop on h6, right? The bishop on g7, that is my extra bishop in the position. I control the dark squares.
Yep.
On f6, I'm not doing anything. From h6, now I might come to d2 and take your c3 pawn. Actually,
But again, to Hikaru's credit, right? I mean, we've been saying black is better for a while now.
Yeah, we have.
And he's kind of holding on. And I like this move b3 because if the trade happens, the a file's open, right? If you don't, maybe I get the b file, and we know what rooks want, right, compared to what bishops want. That's a new movie coming. You've heard of what women want, what men want, what rooks want.
So the rooks want open files, and so b takes c4. Yep, things are opening up here. So bishop d2.
You're going to sack the exchange back if you're Hikaru. You're going to do it.
I'm wondering about it.
I think he would have. I don't know if it was any good, but I'll show it. Bishop d2, you take here, and you end up winning the e7 pawn, I think, even before d5 with check. I actually think it's good for white. Oops.
Yeah.
I think that was the idea.
Although, actually, instead of taking the rook on e1, you would take the pawn on c3 and just keep the rooks on the
Oh, that's a good point. Yeah, that could have been interesting. You take here, and not even because you want the rooks, you want d4 with check.
I'll take everything if you give it to me.
Okay. That might have been a missed opportunity by Duda, just because I like your point. He didn't have to take everything. But this is still, I have a feeling Hikaru's about to tie the match. Like, you win that game, an opening choice that was full tilt mode. He should have lost if you're just joining us somehow. Now he's been on the worst side of an exchange sack here, but no longer. I mean, just objectively remove what happened for the first 30 moves. Who do you like in this position? White's doing fine.
Yeah,
So,
white is doing well here because you look at this position, right? We have from the A through C files, black has an extra pawn there. And why I'm bringing that to our attention is at some moment, black will play B5. And if you're not careful, black will also play B4, giving up the B pawn to spring free the C pawn. We saw that as a possibility in that Berlin endgame several games ago.
Yep.
That's something that might be why, for now, Hikaru's keeping the rooks on the board instead of playing rook F1. He played rook H1, trying to open up more lines, trying to get H5 in if there's a right time for it. He should play G4, G5 if he can, just to gain space. But right now, it's a bit of back and forth shuffling here. I'm not sure if either side really knows what the evaluation is. I mean, I certainly
But
don't.
I think what one side knows is he's up 2 minutes on the clock, right? And the more you poke and prod, and again, it's the strategy that makes Hikaru so dangerous in this stuff. That even earlier, like those aren't moments we applaud, Robert. But even when he made like that bad exchange, like black is better after the exchange sack, right? But he always plays quickly. His intuition of where to put the pieces, as Duda said, is just so high that now he's up on the clock and it's going to pay off, even if objectively he shouldn't win this position.
Yeah, but this B5 move, watch out for B4. So, if Hikaru can avoid any kind of pass pawn situation for Duda, I think, as you said, he got great chances to win. He's up so much time. But Duda still has 20 seconds, and he is a talented blitz player. So it's something to keep an eye on here.
Yeah,
and
I think white needs to play rook b1 to hold b4, and then you can move this rook to e5 without bishop d2 being a problem.
That's true.
And he goes for it. I like this.
So what about like rook f8, bishop g7, pawn b4 anyway? Like, did you get the d pawn?
Look at how we're both predicting moves. Here, let's keep going. I'll predict Naka, you predict Duda.
Okay, b takes a4.
Okay,
no,
nice. Oh, no, wrong. I say rook e5 on the... Oh, no. Okay, now b5.
But b5 c3.
Darn it, you're smarting it.
This is too hard.
If I take a5, c3.
Take a5. Still c3, yeah. Okay, so bishop b3. Keep the bishop helping.
Oh, you're so good. Rook takes a5. Okay.
Here comes the
Rook
c pawn.
c5.
This idea was, we talked about it so long ago, and finally the pawn is free.
And we talked about the Berlin. Okay, either rook a6 or rook c5. Okay, he goes rook a6. Now he can go...
Whoa,
bishop moves. He's threatening rook c6.
I think Duda's playing this extremely well with no time on the clock.
Agreed,
Bishop
Count.
c4
Population
is a big
us.
threat. Bishop c4 might be a huge threat at some moment.
I think you can play rook c6. And I think he's worried about bishop d2 and he doesn't see another move.
Well, rook c6 is also rook c8, just trading off the rooks and saying, you know, I'm going to keep my pawn on c3, trade off a pair of rooks.
Okay, if rook c8, rook c6, there was b5 next, but he goes b5 first. I think he'll still go for rook c6 at some point.
Okay, he pushed the b pawn.
Oh, rook a7
King
check.
d6.
Whoa, wait.
Look at this. He's getting that b pawn, isn't he?
Crazy, but rook c7's coming.
No, but rook c7, I go bishop d5. And
then, you hold everything.
Yep. And is black turning this one around?
Dude, if he wins this game, given that he's been on under 10 seconds here for what seems like an hour, what a game by Duda.
b6 is falling.
He's going to get e7, but then c2. Maybe there's a perpetual.
Yeah, there's definitely.
I think there is a perpetual. You take e7, c2, and you check a Ruski.
Yep.
You can never take c2 because your rook hangs, though. So Nakamura can't really win. It's a question, and that's why he's taking his time right now to see if there's any last chance to win, because I think he knows he has a draw if he plays rook fe7.
And they can get one more game in if Hikaru makes the draw immediately. He might not want another game in this time control, which is why he's spending time.
Look at Hikaru's gamesmanship right there. He's very aware. Hikaru understands. Okay, first of all, Hikaru has more experience in the SEC than anybody else. He's literally made it to the finals all 3 years. And, you know, so if anybody is using the match situation to his advantage, it's Hikaru. And I think that's exactly what he's doing, Robert. Good call. So now he's gonna let it sit down. He's gonna let it think and ensure that this is the last 5-minute game, and we will be headed to 3-minute chess, everybody.
Yep. And here's that repetition we've been talking about.
Yep. He's just waiting a little bit longer. Waiting a little bit longer.
I'm just worried that his connection's going to go out at some moment.
that would be how that strategy backfires. If you somehow lost, that would hurt. But no, it does not. We are headed to 3-minute chess. This game will be aborted. They have started, but it is aborted. I think Hikaru knew exactly what was happening there, and that we are headed to 3-minute chess. Jan-Krzysztof steps up and takes a break. Hikaru, we can imagine, also steps up and takes a break. We'll use our imagination. What's Hikaru doing right now? He takes off those Princess Leia white headphones, shakes his hair in the wind, and says, "This is the 2019 Speed Chess Championship. We'll be right back." And we are back with the 2019 Speed Chess Championship quarterfinal match between Hikaru Nakamura and Jan-Krzysztof Duda. And boy, we never know what to expect on these shows, Robert. Sometimes the underdog does get a lead, and that's a little bit of drama. Sometimes the favorite dominates and has us all shocked. Sometimes you get a mouse slip in game one, right? Losses because of disconnection, total drama, hair flowing in the wind. Robert, you go.
Well, it's been a fascinating match thus far. Of course, game one was marred by this horrendous mouse slip where Hikaru had a normal position of the opening and grabbed the knight instead of the pawn for a capture, lost a piece. Then Hikaru was winning in that game against Jan-Krzysztof. Yep. He ended up disconnecting and losing on time. But that's not all. Jan-Krzysztof Duda was just crushing Hikaru in that other game and then let Hikaru escape and, in fact, win that game. So we've had players give each other points that they didn't really deserve. And so this 1-point lead for Jan-Krzysztof Duda, it's been a toss-up thus far. I don't want people to think that Jan-Krzysztof's been playing much better than Hikaru, or that Hikaru's been playing much better than Jan-Krzysztof Duda. They've given each other mutual chances. We're now into the 3-minute portion, and I got to give props to Jan-Krzysztof Duda because, well, you know, of course, there's been a situation with when your opponent disconnects. Not only is your opponent kind of flustered, you also don't really feel good about that either. Right? Nobody likes winning games in that manner, but he has been a good sportsman. We talked to him briefly during the intermission, and he's ready to fight and play more chess. Yeah, and the games are going to begin here any second, and just so the people know, as the games take off, I think, waiting. Yep, there we go.
We've been discussing it with Hikaru. We tried multiple times with the camera. Right now, his connection is unstable for the video, and Jan-Krzysztof Duda has granted his permission. He agrees and is not worried about Hikaru not being on camera. Obviously, as Robert just said, Jan-Krzysztof wants a good fight. He wants the best chess possible. So we're going to continue to work on that. Hikaru is looking into some solutions. We will for sure have both players for interviews, regardless of who wins. But if you're just joining us, and many of you yelling at me in the chat about getting Hikaru's camera back on at the break, I'm doing my best. I am a magician, a wizard, on the level of, I would say, Saruman the White. But I'm not capable of fixing internet connections in New York. At the very least, I will Wingardium Levy Rosman and remind you, you can watch the Grand Chess Tour Finals with International Master Levy Rosman over at twitch.tv/Chess.com events. Thanks for being everybody. The 3-minute portion. Here we go, Robert.
Wow, the kind of wizard I would have had you at was OG Neville Longbottom. So, I mean, you got yourself
first of all,
higher standards for yourself.
Thank you. I love Neville. He really is the chosen one. I will pull that sword out and cut that head off that snake.
Okay. I mean, you're still OG Neville Longbottom, which is scared of everything. And okay, let's not do this right now. Back to the chess.
Queen E2. So what we have here is a Maroczy bind structure gone weird. And what I mean by that, everybody, we want to head over to the Bat Cave. Yeah. Normally in these types of structures, you actually have a light square bishop for both sides, but it's actually not a traditional Maroczy bind. This is actually a Boleslavsky hole, which means the E file is open instead of the C file. So that's a small, it seems kind of unnecessary, semantic clarification, but it does change a lot because with the C file open, the biggest target is the C4 pawn. With the E file open, the biggest target is typically the E4 pawn, and we see Hikaru putting himself in a position to target that. So honestly, if I had to rank who I like better in this particular type of Boleslavsky hole, right now it's black, mainly because usually the battle, Robert, and I'm curious what you think about this, maybe you see it differently, usually the battle is around, does black get enough compensation and pressure on E4 before white can get a ton of pressure on D6, right, and start forcing moves like bishop F8 to defend? But right now, black is already ahead. The rook is coming to D8, and I feel like if we're just giving a slight nod, Hikaru maybe has one of his better starts to a game here.
Yeah, and one of the critical questions is, can black play bishop takes C3, which is exactly why Jan-Krzysztof just played bishop D4. He's like, I don't even want to give you this pawn. I don't want to calculate, do I have compensation of the dark square control in return for a pawn? So he plays bishop D4 to stop that. But I agree with you that Hikaru's position looks absolutely fine here. He has control of many central squares. You do not want to take on C5, and you double black's pawns, but look at how good that bishop is in the dark squares if you end up taking that knight on C5. So B4 is a very natural move here, but knight E6.
No, that's what I was going to say is the fact that black already has control over these critical squares. White is a tempi short, right? You kind of need queen D2 and F4 already to D6 to be a problem. You need some more pressure, but black is okay. Now, to be clear, it doesn't mean that white is any objectively worse. It just means black has kind of equalized. The clock is probably the biggest thing Duda might be afraid of at this point, down a minute already here in the 3-minute portion.
Yeah, but his position, it's pretty close. He has nothing really to worry about just yet. But as he keeps thinking, he keeps ticking the seconds down here. C5 is one of those moves I would not recommend that move. So that came as a surprise to me. I was thinking that he didn't have too much to worry about because his position was so solid. It's not like black could attack anything. But as soon as you push this pawn to C5, now that pawn is sort of a permanent weakness that you're going to have to deal with.
No, I was just highlighting the pawns were well coordinated in the center. White didn't have much to worry about. But now, yes, you've got the B7 pawn, but I think C5 is as big, if not more, of a weakness. And look out for bishop F. Oh, he plays it before I can highlight. But you heard me start to say the B word.
Yep. This is just good for black at this point.
Yep.
And white, okay, king G2, you need to cover the F3 square and some of the holes in your position, the king side. But where is white going to start attacking these? As you point out, the B7 pawn is a backward pawn. You can always put a rook on B1, but that's it. You're never actually going to win that pawn, and C5 is very weak. So perhaps knight F4 is just a means of trading off some of the pieces, because when you have...
Yeah, I like that move by Duda.
Yeah, you have less space, less control, trading off a pair of minors.
Yeah, white should just be looking to kind of equalize this one out.
Although if Hikaru kind of dilly-dallies too much, then all of a sudden perhaps White can try to press a move like e5, e6. If you're able to get that in, could be very dangerous. And look at this bishop e5 move saying, let me take over the long diagonal.
Is he going to do it? Is he going to bring the bishop back and go full battery?
So
I like it.
C5 pawn problem. The A2 pawn also a bit of an issue.
Maybe you just go for bishop A1 here and open up that door. I mean, now you've got threats at some point. And mate on the brain over here. Rook C2. Okay, the problem is Hikaru, problem for Duda, Hikaru is playing very accurately here. And Duda only has 15 seconds.
Yeah, most of the rook endgames, and I mean a pure rook endgame without queens and bishop, are going to be just probably slightly better for black because the b7 pawn, again, is the lone target. So this is why, Hikaru would like to trade queens off the board, but of course, Jan-Krzysztof saying, if you ever try to trade queens and give me the long diagonal, I'm going to try to mate you. Okay, well.
I like the tickle by Duda. I'm into that.
Well, I mean, Hikaru is the one who's choosing to go back and forth right now, I think.
Yeah, but I mean, from Duda's perspective with the time pressure, you got to be willing. Now, rook b3, maybe. Yeah, he finds it. You guard e3.
Yep.
Threaten rook f3.
And here comes maybe bishop f6 and just gaining more space for white in this position. Black can play bishop g7 and trade off the bishops, and that actually might be a wise move at some point in the near future because I don't really see how black makes progress otherwise. Okay, so bishop c3, just play that. Otherwise, rook d1 comes. Oh, he hung e4?
Ooh, e4 with check.
I'll be like king h2.
Ah, and there's mate on h8. Hikaru's thinking there, if you can't tell by his face.
Oh, but then he has f6, and if queen f6, you bishop g7?
Oh, he sees it.
Tactically,
f6,
he gets out.
nice move. Calculation, Holmes.
It's over. It's over.
Bishop g7 is a very nice finish. Duda's going to go down a piece here. He just resigns before Hikaru can finish the combination. And Nakamura has tied up the match at 5 games apiece here, having solved some of his connection and mouse slip issues. But Duda, I don't expect to make this easy here in the 3-minute portion. John Hules 2 in the Chess TV chat says he thinks Hikaru can play chess, solve quantum mechanics, and watch football at the same time.
Oh, man. Agree to disagree. I don't know if he'll do any of that quantum mechanics, but he can definitely watch football, play chess, and what was the other thing? Stream? He can do those.
Yeah, and often does.
Yeah. Okay, so in this position, this is one of these weird
lines of the Petrov. One of my favorite ways to play it, actually. Something kind of funky, just because you get something different rather than all the symmetry. You got the knight on f4 hitting d5, which is not just symmetrical. A couple of knights on c3, f3, c6, and f6.
But I think black should be doing okay in these.
No, I think black's fine. I like these from a practical perspective. It's kind of funky.
Yeah, it puts you in neutral territory very early. Right? You can't rely on opening preparation. And we saw Hikaru Nakamura try against Fabiano Caruana in the FIDE Chess.com Grand Swiss. He played like this subtle h3 move in the white side of just a very calm position. You're just trying for things. He's saying, I don't want my opponent to be able to just blitz out moves based on, whoa! Oh my god! Oh my gosh! That is such a sick move!
That was so awesome! You were talking and I wasn't on camera. I looked first and I looked and I went, ooh! Okay, everyone, if you take the queen, it was mate. And now he's got queen a2 for free. Okay, to the back cave back. That was so freaking awesome. I didn't see that coming. Look at this move. Queen a3.
Oh my gosh. That honestly, could be move of the year type of.
Yeah, that was so awesome. And the reason why, it's not just a flashy hope chess. Yes, if you take, it's mate. But you're also threatening queen takes c3 and then bishop a3 mate. And if you do anything else, he just wins the pawn and keeps the mating tack alive. What a move. I mean, this is one of those moments we really wish we had Hikaru on camera, because that was a flippin' shot in the dark right there from Duda that was nasty.
That was so sick.
We see the chat going wild, Chess TV. Duda. And
how could you not root for a guy who sees moves like queen a3?
That was just so awesome. Look at him zoning in there. He's about to rickroll us.
However, we've seen him waste huge advantages in some of the other games. So he has to be careful here not to let Hikaru out, but rook d6 followed by rook a6 and knight b3 and things like that.
The biggest thing for Duda is I think he has to speed up overall, right? Okay, obviously it always sounds like Captain Obvious. You have to play good moves and play them fast. Okay, thanks.
Yep.
But seriously, you can't overthink these early moments. Right now he's still down a little bit on the clock, and if he's going to stay in this match with Hikaru, you've got to keep the speed up.
Man, that was sick.
It was so awesome. It was just like, this is why we watch chess, and some of us still play good chess, not me, but man, oh man.
I mean, these are two of my favorite players, and I'd never root against Hikaru Nakamura when there's Speed Chess. Queen A1 check. Oh my god! That was sick,
we have a party.
That might be the game of the year.
It was so awesome. I don't care who wins this match. I'm so happy. Let's go and see it again. Oh my gosh. What in the world?
Sick.
Okay, this game is so good. He plays Queen A3 first of all. Just how freaking amazing is that? You're threatening mate. And it's also sound. You win a pawn on A2 and keep the attack going. And as we harp on the fact, hey, don't let Hikaru back in. And Duda's like, I got you, baby birds. I'm putting the rook on A6. And then he drops the queen on A1. And if you take, the reason, everybody, is knight B3 is double check and mate.
Oh, my gosh.
That was so freaking awesome.
Honestly, I'm mesmerized by that game. Like, so
I literally don't care who wins the match anymore. Like, I can just walk away. That was so awesome.
For context, Chess.com does these yearly game of the year voting and stuff like that.
And in fact, I'm working on a video that we're recording for YouTube, and we're working on our top 10 moments of 2019. Well, guess what? We just have to add to the list.
That game for sure.
That game for sure is getting it. That was awesome.
I was about to say, if Sam Copeland or somebody's listening right now, they better add that game to the list of that.
Sam's
was sick.
always watching.
Oh,
wow,
man. I don't even want to comment on the other games anymore.
Tell me when this one's over.
Oh, that was so sick.
That was so sick. Why are we whispering now?
Because I have no words.
We need a safe word the next time that happens.
Okay, so let's try to talk about this chess again. We went from the most exciting position ever to a game with 0 trades, and all of the position is close.
Oh my god! It doesn't matter who you're rooting for in this match, everybody. Come on, chat. That's just a fantastic game. That's why you watch chess. That was just awesome, brilliant, and also encouraging if you are a Duda fan, because you just sort of punched back a little bit, right? You're like, look, I'm not gonna let Hikaru storm and make a comeback just yet, Wow.
I mean, he just won the game of the match, right? Even if he loses.
Yeah. That's our moment of the match, no matter what happens. I mean, honestly, that was the moment of the match right there.
Okay, but we're excited, right? We're just
here comes Hikaru. Speaking of creating his own little moment of the match, look at that G5 move. He wants more. He wants it all.
I was going to say, you can't just get caught up in the fact that you just won a nice game.
Yep.
You need to really buckle down here and follow that up with more victories, or at least more solid chess, because you don't want to spoil that moment. Knight takes c4, free pawn. I was actually about to highlight how knight d2 attacked the pawn, and there it is, free pawn for Duda.
I just love the comment from Platinum member Fob Stinlow and Chess TV chat. He's like, it's amazing that Hikaru remains emotionless after that game. So good. Shout out to roughly 11,000 of you watching this in English across our multiple platforms. We see you no matter where you are. We love you on YouTube, Twitch, Mixer, Twitter. We see you. We love you. Thanks for being here. Thanks for being positive. And Chess TV chat, thanks for being rocking today. Duda day. Zippity Duda day. He's about to win his second game in a row. That's a couple of pawns.
And then bishop b4, d6, e5 might fall next. I mean, might turn from a couple into 2 couples.
Yeah, that's a game Hikaru's got to recover from after that. Crazy.
Wow. Hey, we got Nihal Sarin in the chat.
Classic Nihal Sarin.
Yeah, I hope Nihal enjoyed that really beautiful checkmate.
Yeah.
Okay, but Hikaru's not out of this game, right? There's G4
The one
ideas.
thing he has is he's gone full King's Indian Hikaru mode, right? He's gonna completely lose the queen side. He's already dropped 2 Peshki. But if he gets G4 and this becomes a time scramble with a mating net, don't count Hikaru out because H4 prepares G4 and everybody is joining the party.
But just F3, right? Now that he's on H4, just try to take away all the squares. Say G4, I'll just take with my pawn. You're gonna have to go full Sacktown here.
Yep.
And I know that you like to live in Sacktown.
But you don't have to ask me
not
twice.
so convinced.
I'm paying
Here
rent there,
comes.
and it's overpriced rent. It's like living in New York.
Nice one. But look what's going on here. Do you buy it?
Sacks,
Do you believe in this?
Sacktown. Bishop takes G4. Everyone's favorite spot. He's got his eye on it right here.
Well,
Come on.
93, rook G3. The other rook comes to G8.
Dude, I'm not kidding.
I don't think that Dude is gonna be so happy about this transition.
No,
here.
this is getting away from him. He's up a piece. In addition to the 2 pawns he already kind of stole over here, but he's got to focus. He's like, all right. He's like, come on. He's giving himself a pep talk. I got to be able to figure this out. Leaning in.
I think he can go rook F1, right, and try to.
Yeah, that's a good plan. Rook F1, rook F2. The problem is even if you get there, I have knight H3. Ooh.
Right.
Oh, sacking the queen.
Yeah, he's gonna sack the queen, but I wasn't going to go rook F2. I was gonna try to take on F4, trying to remove your very aggressive piece from the action.
No,
but
I think this was a great move because if black goes for this, yeah, you got the queen, but you were already down a piece. So look at the material black has for the lady. That's a rook and 2 bishops. It's a lot.
Yeah, you're
And
absolutely right.
she lacks access, right? Everybody's guarded here.
What about queen B6? Okay, played, and then knight G4. Can you bring that next knight into the action?
Look at you dirty dog. This has King's Indian, some sort of Miguel Najdorf, Zurich International 1953 checkmate written all over it. Hashtag look it up. Hashtag make sure you read the book by David Bronstein, Zurich International 1953. It's a long hashtag, but it's worth it. Hashtag.
Wait. What was this? This is not good.
Queen E3. Here comes knight G4. Knight G4, and you can sack the queen.
Rook H2 first. Rook H2 first.
Rook H2, king takes, knight G4, fork town, and this time the main attack doesn't stop.
Wow, this is...
Dude, no, Hikaru really did he just shut down the queen side. It said you're no longer in my universe. He shunned it, and then he just opened the king side for the attack.
This is just, rook H2 check, you win the queen. But you do have many pieces for white though, right? Because...
Okay, he goes knight G4 first. That's what I wanted, because I somehow wanted to sack the queen and find the mate. I don't see it, but I wanted what Hikaru did.
So queen takes B6, you have to play, otherwise you're just
Queen
totally
takes B6, rook
dead.
H2, king G1, knight H3, king F1. He sees it. Okay, rook H2, king G1, knight H3, king F1. No, he's just taking a draw?
Yeah, he's taking a draw. And you can't go king F1 because knight H2 is mate. That's really nasty, actually.
Yeah, if white played king F1, knight H2 is mate. But the problem is black can't get both and hold the square, so it's just going to be a draw.
Yep.
Wow. Well, isn't that just lame?
Wow. Rook H2 check instead of knight G4. I wonder what he missed. Or maybe what I missed, because I'm not positive it works. I trust Hikaru's tactical calculations better than I trust mine.
To the Batcave. Let's see that final finish there, because yeah, it was a draw, but come on. Okay, so Hikaru and Robert and I were looking at rook H2 first. Now the king is trapped. You have to take. There's a fork on G4. You have to go to H1, because otherwise I take the queen with check, and I take... Maybe it was bishop takes E5 check. And then I guess you just take E3, Robert. And honestly, yeah, that just looks like white's getting too much material. So I'm kind of agreeing with Hikaru now.
Wait, but after knight G4 check and king H1, go knight F2 check. Don't take the queen.
What?
Oh my gosh.
Hold on. Rook H2, king takes, knight G4, king, knight F2 check. And if king H2, rook G2's mate. And if he takes it, now you're mating him. Bishop takes E5, king H7. I think he did miss it.
That's craziness.
Oh my gosh. And thank you for the
nasty
subscribers
stuff
and all the love that you guys have been giving us today. We're getting a lot of support from chat, subscriptions, donations, all the love. Thank you. We appreciate it. We're having a blast today.
I don't know. I'm having trouble breathing right now because of that last game where, there's 2 games ago, I should say, where Duda played queen A3.
I'm going to lose my voice
A1.
after this one.
Okay, Danny, I have a question for you.
Yo.
besides, of course, the matches we've already discussed with Magnus Carlsen defeating Hikaru Nakamura, has anyone been this close with Hikaru? I guess Wesley So
So
was.
remember, Wesley So had a 2-game lead in last year's final, in last year's Speed Chess Championship.
Yeah.
So that was it. The reason I asked the question about the 3-game lead, which we never got to because Hikaru came back and swindled that game, remember?
Right.
It was the last game of 5-1. I just went like little brother on you and went, remember, big brother? We were playing in the park and you didn't pick me on the team, member? Anyway, but do you remember that? Right? So Duda never got to a 3-game lead. So technically, the stat guys have to check on this, but I've done a lot of shows, and I'm pretty sure I've never seen Hikaru trail by 3 games against anybody who wasn't Magnus Carlsen.
I think you're right. Sounds right.
All right. Well, Hikaru now a little bit better here as white. We've got a D pawn and an E pawn. Both are isolated, but I think that we prefer the knight in this situation. The bishop is kind of awkward.
We do, and we also prefer the fact that the black king side can become quite vulnerable in the near future with rook G3 ideas.
Yeah.
So why not knight D4 here? Okay, he didn't play
Queen
knight
G5.
D4.
Dude is going to take the ladies home. Get him out of here.
Yeah.
Although the problem is if you do that, Hikaru quickly trades and doubles on the D file, and you're forever strapped with the pawn.
That's a fair point, right? And then knight
so
comes
maybe
to
you
D4.
can't do it. Okay. Rook C, and here comes the rooks to the D file anyway.
But the thing is, the D pawn's not really hanging because it's protected because the C pawn is hanging. So,
it's a good
move
point.
Can you play? I just don't really know what move you can throw in here for black. So he ended up going Queen G5, so it's going to transpose into the move Queen G5 he played earlier, and he's trying to claim that, okay, my pressure on the C file is enough to kind of offset this problematic D pawn and what looks like a good endgame for white, but this is Hikaru's chance.
Yep.
So can you play D5 here? It looks very weird.
That's the key question. It's like a Sicilian. If you can do it and get away with it, you're solving all your problems as black, but can you get away with it? Because if I think E5, I think Hikaru's going to sit tight. Keep the dominant knight. Yeah, he likes it. Mikey likes it. You know what he has, Robert, is B4 and rook A3.
Ooh, that's kind of nasty.
Swing
I like that
town.
move, though. Wait, can black play B4 to stop your idea with B4?
Maybe. In fact, if you're going to do it, maybe now's the time because you also have access to the C3 square. In fact, he doesn't. Look at you.
But he can also play rook C5, rook A5. Exactly what he's doing.
That's a nice idea.
Well, you set it up. You said B4, rook A3 for white. So I said, well, why not B4, rook A5 for black?
As usual, the double Ds here overrated.
Danny?
The rook's got nothing.
Normally I don't respond to your humor, but
I don't know what you're talking about. I was saying the rooks are doubled on the D file. They were overrated.
I don't know what to do with you. Never do. So let's talk about chess.
That's what we're talking about, Robert. I have no idea what you're saying. All right, rook E3. You know what he wants? He wants E6, cut off the bishop's protection of G4.
But E6, he'll just end up taking it, and then he'll play D4 at some point, I think. And the C2 pawn is hanging. What am I talking about? So he couldn't get away. Oh my gosh, you can't take en passant because of B4.
That is a huge move by Hikaru. Look at Duda shaking his head. The point, everybody, if takes, fork town. No, that's the kind of move that saves a positionally worse endgame, because normally you can't get away without the en passant problem, but he does it just like that with A4. That was a big move, and he's going to, look at it, he's up the exchange, dude. Hikaru's going to go on to win and retie this match.
I'm not so positive he's going to win this game just yet. It definitely is a good position for him, but if he starts gobbling up some of these pawns here, so he's one of them is gone. Now, but rook C5 is going to play rook A8 check and F7 falls. You can't afford to have F7 fall.
The rooks can quickly switch to an attack mode, right? So there's not even just about the pawns. This king is kind of in a weird mating net with the H pawn already being on H4.
Okay, so now...
Although now G3 and D3.
Yeah, that looks at least somewhat promising.
Yeah, do it. G3 would check. D3... Okay, if king E2 was going to be D3 and then take, but this is fine.
E5 is falling with check, and that way black doesn't try to protect his king.
Okay, king D2 is nice because now the rook is sort of overloaded. You can't leave the bishop's protection. Okay, if you can guard E5, then this guy will fall.
Yeah, but the thing is, if I put my bishop on e6, I do wish my pawn on g3 was kind of back on g4.
Yeah.
Because like if I have my bishop on e6, everything's protected. I feel like I have a sort of blockade going on. So he snaps off e5, and
the
now
biggest
bishop
issue is not on the board here, Robert.
Yeah, rook g3, bishop e2 check, king takes d4. He gets away with it.
Bishop takes a6. It's a draw, but the problem is the clock.
Is this a draw? I don't think so.
I guess I thought with the... Okay, never mind. The ability to threaten the sack into the king and pawn ending is really key for white here.
In fact, the bishop...
Now you can... Okay, you could almost do it right away, but h5 and g5 first.
Take it now in the king e5.
Take it now? Yeah, he's calculating it. You just win the e-pawn. Hikaru sees it. The moment he pauses there, if he was on camera, he'd be throwing us a Hikaru number 5. Yep, just double check confirming, does a little bit of head nod, take, I win. That was Hikaru number 5.
But don't go g5, g6. Because then the king is
that's a famous draw. We'll show that. Don't go anywhere, everybody. You're about to learn something. Little knowledge nugget. Put it in your pocket. Okay. If you could still mess this up. If g5, king h8, king f7, king h7, g6 is a draw.
Yep. But you need to be able to play h6 by the time the king
he's got to play h5 first here, I think.
But h5, king... Yes, h5.
Yeah, you can play... Or g5. g5, h5, h6. You take with the king and it's winning.
Yeah. So he goes h5...
We're going to show you guys this here in just a second. Because we want you to feel like, well, Danny was inappropriate today, but at least I learned something.
So, wait, he moved back. What's
How
he doing?
How is he holding this? Why isn't it?
Oh my gosh, it's a draw! It's
Dude,
a draw
he just
now.
messed it up into a theoretical draw.
Oh my gosh, this is a draw. This is a draw.
What a save. I told him not to do that.
No, but now it's winning again. Now it's winning again.
Oh, he just blundered king e6, h5, h6. King comes around, it's over.
Oh, no.
What in the world just happened there?
That went from winning to draw to winning just like that. You said it, the time. The time was the biggest problem.
Okay, the next game is underway, but let's go back to the Batcave here. Let me show it. So this final position, just to clarify there, is easily winning because the king comes in and this pawn falls. Now we have 2 pawns. But this position here, with the after king e4, king e6, should be a draw. King f4, the thing is you can't play king d6, right? What should he play?
Right.
King f7.
Exactly.
And if king e5, king e7... If king g4, then you come back to e6. So what happened was instead, he went, instead of king f7, wait, no, he ran the king away from the pawn too far and allowed Hikaru to trade it off. So you have to, the reason why, everybody, if you play king f7 and Hikaru goes for the same idea, h5 doesn't work, okay, no matter what, because the king is just already in drawing territory. You're in front of the pawn. So the educational takeaways are this. So this is a theoretical draw. Hikaru blundered away. As long as you keep the king close and you always meet king e4 with king e6, you have opposition and it's a draw. Duda blunders when he takes the king away from the pawn and allows h5 to trade. But Hikaru, earlier, we have to show so many educational things here, Robert. I know the other game's going, but it's crazy. Like, this position, if h5... and h6, I think he just miscalculated this.
Yeah, I mean,
h6, he has king h8.
Right, but then you have king f7, no? Oh, wait, but then there's king h7.
Wait, yeah, he stalemated it. No, then g6. No, g6, you take the pawn.
I mean, I'm behind you because I can't see. Oh my gosh,
what an amazing... I just learned something about this. So here's the point, everyone. If you get king on the 6th, pawn on the 5th here, no matter what, the timing is going to work out for you to win. Whenever the king leads the way, the zugzwang will be there. You can mark my words and call me out later. All right? It works. King on the 6th, pawn on the 5th. It's winning. So that's why I assumed this was the winning plan. But if you play king h8, if you take it, it's a stalemate draw. No. Oh, yeah. No, you have this. It was winning, Robert. King h6 and king h7.
I mean, I'm behind you, so I don't really...
The winning idea, if you get h6 king over, you take g7, and on king g8, you go to h6, not f6, because f6 would stalemate. But if you go to h6, the king runs out, and you're not stalemated.
Yeah, like I said, I'm following on the delay, so I'm not totally following the analysis.
Right. It was winning for Hikaru. He missed this h5, h6 plan, but ultimately he goes on to win it. Anyway, the last draw I wanted to mention that Robert and I kept saying is you never want to push your g-pawn. If you lead with the g-pawn, the king's stalemated, and it's a draw, no matter what you do. All right, we'll go back to the live game here, but that's a lot of king pawn ending stuff. But it was winning for Hikaru before he blundered the draw. I'm sure of it now. I think the H pawn, I think he miscalculated. He saw the stalemate idea, Robert, forgot he could play king H6, king H7.
I believe you, man. I'm with you. I just don't have I'm following you kind of, but then looking at the game live and I'm trying to multitask and it's too much for me right now.
What matters is we have a tied match, and that was an epic game, and ultimately, as you said, time pressure was really the thing that it came down to for Duda.
Well, this position looks good for Duda, right? Better for white. You have better placed pieces. You got control of the D file. Black has no activity whatsoever to speak of. And, well, he just goes ahead and chops off on D6. I don't know if I would have done that. Yeah, I would have started with G4, kept the tension alive a little bit longer.
He's playing well, but again, the time is what I'm worried about here.
Yeah, he's always down a minute on the clock, it seems.
Yeah.
And one of the questions is white going to play for H4, G5 or H4? H5 or, play on the queen side at some point. But he might go king C2, king B1. And he can't bring his king to A4 because the bishop cuts off the
I know, that's
access.
a fun idea, though, right? If only you could get there. That's not a bad idea, Robert, because if you make that an access point, you can play C4, C5 at the right time.
Yeah, C4 is definitely... B4 now is also worth consideration.
Oh, B4 takes and you're going to play C4?
No, I was just going to take back on B4, bring king to B3, and try to claim an advantage because I have more space in the position.
You're so smart. You're so smart.
Well, right now, bishop H6 played. Okay, so now black is throwing G5. That's a bishop that has wandered too far. So he moves it back. And can black get away with F5? That's the essential question here. Can black actually break open the position first?
He's going to try.
And
time is the issue for Duda, though, yet again. White is objectively... Okay, maybe not anymore. Because honestly, if F5 happens, I don't think we can even say white is objectively better anymore.
Yeah.
I mean, F5 is... And so Duda's going to try to prevent it with this move, everybody, because he's going to take and then say, well, I'll use the G file. But Hikaru might call his bluff anyway and play F5.
So I guess... Yeah, the rook infiltrating the G7 is what stopped him from playing
he didn't
F5
like it. I didn't know if it was so good, but okay. He goes... He takes the safe approach, eventually gets F5. Duda, under time pressure here, got to speed up.
But his position looks pretty solid as white. You're absolutely right, though. Being down a minute on the clock and having 19 seconds left is not a good sign here. He's trying to go H6, eventually try to put his rook on G7, claim space over there on the king side, and cement this H7 pawn as a potential weakness. The downside for white of playing H6 at some point is that you put your pawn in a dark square, so if the rooks get traded, the king can come back over to the king side and try to win that pawn.
Yep, and it's a target for the bishop on that color, which is a good, again, long-term kind of endgame lesson to keep your eyes on. You don't want to just put pawns willy-nilly on the color of your opponent's bishop.
Yep.
And yes, I just used willy-nilly appropriately. Bishop to D6.
Yeah, maybe king D6, bring the king over to
bring
E6
the king
also.
back. Okay, I like that.
I think black is doing very well here, and the clock is really the determining factor, I'd say. But the position is also starting to really look good for black, because rook H3 is a threat in the near future coming after this H pawn.
No, Hikaru played this very well. The whole approach was patient, defended, eventually broke with F5, and now I think you can go for your plan, rook H3. Why not?
Yeah, rook H3.
He does it. You're also threatening rook H4 in some positions, and the E4 pawn's a weakness.
I think this is the best way to lose the pawn, though, is to trade the bishops in the process, because now black is up one pawn, but it's this H pawn. Flank pawns often are not the most helpful pawns in endgames. And, okay, he's trying to rely on
He's going to take and then try to... Ooh, A4 by Hikaru. That's a good move. Now B2's also a problem. Rook H2 check. You have to tuck the king back.
Here comes H5, and eventually that king is going to try to walk into
go to
C4
C4 and B3, and he's going to get it.
Although that king is coming to A3 pretty quickly as well.
Okay.
So rook H7 here.
Yeah, no, Duda's fighting, and with only a few seconds, you got it. This is a very well-defended endgame.
But I'm wondering if now Duda can take on E4 and then go rook C4, rook C5, and try to win this B pawn. But I guess king a3 is always coming. This is like
King,
one tempo
I thought
short.
he could get king c5 there. Rook c6, king b5. I wonder if he missed that.
He's trying to gain time because it's the 1 second increment, but he's about to lose it.
He needs to gain it. And that finds a very nice move. King a4.
Play b4. Try to stalemate yourself.
Oh, that would have been so hilarious.
Yeah, this is losing. So I
I
knew the
but
position
b4
was losing.
was the last chance. You were right. What a crazy... Oh, he finds it. Rook c1.
Yep.
Oh!
Doesn't work, though. King d3.
Okay, king d3 super smart. Oh, my God. That was super close.
You freaked out there.
Dude, I thought he had found a... Yeah, there's no... Let's show it on the analysis board. The point, everybody, we were freaking out. We, as in the royal we, including everyone, even though it's just me. If the king moves anywhere else, you start with checks and it's stalemate. Renegade rook time. But the thing is, you can even go back to d3 then.
But which is why b4 earlier was better, right?
Yeah,
B4
your idea here was better. Play b4 now. Because now the rook has to run away because you're legit threatening a stalemate and it won't be able to be stopped. So the rook has to run away, and the question is, can you hold it now? Something like this. Rook guards, maybe bring the king back. Probably not. You're probably still lost, but still was worth a shot. All right.
All right.
Well,
Hikaru's up a point now.
I was going to say, we haven't said this yet in the match, but we have a happy Hikaru.
Are you bringing out happy Hikaru?
Happy Hikaru. He's leading in the match for the first time all day.
And see, here I thought we were only going to get one expression from him for the rest of the show.
Most of the day has been this. We are now in this.
The thing is, I can't react immediately because I can't see, for a little bit. So when I'm not laughing with you, Danny, it's
You're
not because I don't
me.
Appreciate. No, it's because I'm not. It's not that I don't appreciate your
Sorry,
jokes.
that's what they said a lot in school. Danny, we're not laughing with you. We're laughing at you. There's a flashback. All right.
Well, I'm not laughing about this position because we're in my territory here. We're in an end game with, not a symmetric pawn structure. Black has 4-on-3 from the E to H file. White has a 3-on-2 from the A through C file. So an extra pawn on each side for each player here. And the bishops right now look very nice for Black. Right? Put this bishop on D5. Say that my bishops are strongly centralized. And an essential question when you analyze a position like this from both sides is, what kind of trades do you actually want? Does Black want to trade bishops when bishop G2 is coming, which, well, it's happening whether you like it or not? And if you do trade these bishops, do you take on G2 or play rook H to D8 and allow White to take you on D5 so you take with the E pawn? So he answers the question of what he preferred. Watch out for rook takes C5. So White played rook D8.
Oh, yeah. He blocked it. By the way, I can't stop thinking about the stalemate trick. I think it did work. Because in that line I showed with rook H3, rook E1, you can take on E3 with check. Rakesh in the Chess TV chat just pointed that out, and it's stalemate.
There were stalemating ideas galore.
Yeah, that was fun and instructive. Okay. Hikaru is going to try to use the 3-on-2. Will it be faster than the 4-on-3? Find out next time. No kidding. In these endgames, the 3-on-2 should be the better majority than the 4-on-3, right, Robert?
Well, right now, because the pawns are starting to move in the center, I'm actually quite happy with them. So he can just take on E3. C2 is hanging.
They just agreed to a draw. They're like, oh, not gonna try to win this one anymore. Which I think was fair. I mean, they're both fighting a lot. Duda is down a point now for the first time in the match. So he's willing to take a draw and get the white pieces.
And he's gone away from these E4, E5 Berlins that we had earlier in the 5-minute portion. And now Jan-Krzysztof is going for D4 lines. So it'd be interesting to ask him why he went away from E4.
I was just going to say, I wonder if that's his own psychological kind of issues now for the first time. He was up 2 games in this match. If somehow you're just joining us, where have you been? So Duda was up 2 games. He's now trailing for the first time. And so it doesn't make sense for him to go away from E4. I mean, he has been successful with white all day with E4.
Yeah, we should ask him for sure after the match when we get the interviews with the players. But we look at this position here, and well, white is better here anyway. You have this, you have fewer pawns on the queen side for white, but this pawn on b7 is sort of a permanent target. Not really a weakness. It's hard to pile up pressure on the bishops on f5. It takes away the move rook to b1. That's very important. But you could play rook a2, rook b2 at any moment. And where's this knight on b8 going? If you go to d7, you simply, okay, this is clearly good for white
something went wrong when you're playing bishop c8. Knight back to d3 or f4. No, f4, f6.
Do you remember that game, Danny, where Hikaru was white against Karyakin in the Singfield Cup? And Karyakin had like no development whatsoever, but held on for a draw.
Well, and we were convinced Hikaru was going to win.
Right. And it feels like Hikaru is taking one from Sergei's book here. And like undeveloping his pieces of saying, try to beat me. Here, just take on d5.
Right.
That seems clear to me. Take that pawn, open up more lines for your pieces. Whether if you take back with a pawn for black, then my rook comes to c1. I'm just first the action with the white pieces. And he plays c5 because he's just trying to leave b7 as a permanent weakness. But how do you actually push forward? Is he going to play f3, e4? That's one idea. Watch out for bishop h3 ideas potentially for black now, just to finish the development.
He says, I'm not going to allow bishop h3. Ooh. Now you got to consider the exchange sack, right? Okay, he doesn't. But I guess it's because you couldn't take twice with the rook, because then rook b8 would have been good.
And the annoying thing here for white is like you can't go rook b1, the bishop covers it, and the a5 pawn is impossible to attack another time.
No, it can look very pretty, but you can get rook b6, rook a1, rook a2, rook b2, right? And that's kind of what he's going for here. Duda's going for the slow jam approach here on the b file.
Yeah, I'll go rook a3, rook b3, but if rook a3 is bishop c4, so somehow
I think you should play rook b6 first. Rook b6 is also kind of irritating because it opens up some weird tricks on d5 if you're not careful.
Oh, that's actually very true.
No, he plays rook a3, but I still think rook b6 should be played.
I also want to play h3 just to make sure I don't get back rank checkmated at some point.
That's a good call. The pro tip, don't get back rank mated. In fact, queen b1, okay. Queen b1, he has rook e1. Right after the trade, I was like, hold the phone. Okay, f5.
I'm not sure I love that move, but he won't.
That's not my favorite move either.
I want play on the king side while you go try to demolish me on the queen side, so I'm going to start pushing my pawns.
He's going to play f4 probably.
Well, I'll just take it. Snap that right off.
I might play f3 then.
No, if I take on f4, you're going to play f3.
Oh, I thought you would take b7. There. I'm sorry.
Nah, man, I'm snapping that f4 pawn. I don't want you to mate me. I know what you got on the brain. Nothing, apparently. You're silent.
Based out there. Hello, darkness, my old friend. F4. Oh, he went for it.
Hello, darkness, my old friend.
All right, rook e1 threatened. So you have to play either rook b1 or g3. Actually, you can play h3 too. Yeah, okay. I think that was best.
He wants the queen to go to g3 to offer a queen trade now that he's up a pawn.
Yeah, good point. Look at Hikaru, though.
It's
hitting
tricky
d4,
Hikaru.
hitting f4. Watch this rook slide to a1, dual threats on the a pawn and rook e1.
I'm liking queen g3 here because I don't want to play g3 and open up my king even more. So he played it now, and that way b7 is falling. You can't protect it. And once b7 falls, g7 is also weak. And so black's attack looks a bit slower than is necessary to kind of even this one up.
Yeah, I agree.
The queen takes d4, rook takes b7.
Yep.
And your rook a1 idea just feels a little bit too slow.
Yeah, Hikaru under a minute. Hikaru's under on time for the first time in a really long time.
Yep.
I mean, I don't think he's been the first under time pressure since the game he lost by disconnection.
And maybe that's why Duda played d4. Perhaps he just feels more comfortable in it in this blitz games, and he's actually up on the clock, which has been really the tail in these 3-minute portion. He's been in time trouble pretty much every game, and there's sometimes he could have held that king and pawn end game, and he just didn't have enough time to calculate it.
Okay, Hikaru's going to go for queen d4. Maybe that's the right choice regardless, because despite the rook looking good on the 7th rank, you do now have the d-pawn. And...
But rook takes c6 is a threat now.
This is a huge threat. If the queen moves, mate and bake on g7.
Yep. Wait. So queen g6. You need to make space for your king. Queen g6.
Queen
your king
g6,
will have to
rook
run
check,
g3.
king up, queen c3. Okay, we're
And
going
then
to find
king-
out. Rook check, king g3, queen c3, f3, queen e1. The king runs to g4, and you're all out of goods.
Yeah, you can also go king h4 instead of f3 if you need.
Rook e3!
Just take it. Just take it. You're fine. Don't freak out. Just take it.
I already freaked out. It's too late.
What do you mean? He's winning. King g4.
Okay. Whoa.
Don't go king f5 because then you blunder your queen.
King f5 would have lost to queen d3. You lose the queen. Wow. Okay, Hikaru went all in there to try to swindle that one, but Duda ultimately gets the victory. We are tied again. You know where else Hikaru went recently? He flew to film a show with HBO, and apparently he will be making a cameo in an HBO major series. Now, what we don't know if it's fiction, nonfiction. I have a couple theories about it, but I don't want to say mine. Because we have a lot of tweets to read about this. At Chess AKA says Hikaru is going to appear on Real Sports. After all, there's already an episode about chess. Okay, I think that's a fair guess. I actually have it on authority. It's not Real Sports, so I can say that. I have a couple shows I can eliminate that it's not. Robert, you read this one.
I'm on delay, so.
Okay. I think he's going to have a cameo on House of the Dragon, where the show's. Where he shows the power of Black's fiend ketoing the bishop and going for the opponent's throat as fast, as lethal as a knight. I feel like you're speaking Game of Thrones and I blacked out an hour ago. Let's move on. Okay. Crazy Coffee Man says it's at Showtime's Ray Donovan. No, it is HBO. At GM, Hikaru hires Ray to rile up Duda before the SEC match. There you go. We get credit for that. Maybe Robert Hess wants to tell a quick story about a time he was invited to appear on a Showtime show.
But I was invited and uninvited, so it just brings up tough memories. But
like me and a lot of birthday parties. Go ahead.
So Maurice Ashley was on an episode of Billions a couple years ago.
With Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson.
What?
Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson is on Billions.
It was Paul Giamatti, man.
Oh, yeah, that's the other show.
You're thinking of Ballers.
Ballers. Yeah.
Wow, that is a pop culture demerit for you right there.
Billions is a horrible show.
Okay, firstly, you just got to stop for a second because this is my story to tell, and you're ruining it all.
Go for it.
So anyway, Maurice was on an episode a little while back, and then I got an email, just cold email, being like, "Hey, they were thinking about doing a chess scene. Would you be interested in doing a cameo?" And they ended up changing the scene, so I'm not doing it anymore. And that's the end of my story.
Mm-hmm. So you got written out.
I mean, yeah, kind of. Yeah, you want to rub it in a little more?
Hey. It's an honor to be written out so that you can be on these shows with us. But anyway, jokes aside, everybody, our daily question, let's remind everybody real quick of what it is, because I think we are going to give away a diamond membership here today if we get a great one. The daily question is, which show do you think Hikaru is going to appear on? It's a real thing. Hikaru went and filmed an episode. It's already over. He will be making a cameo on a show. And what do you think it will be? Get involved. Use the hashtag SpeedChess on Twitter. You can let us know in chat, and we'll keep track of it. Thank you.
Yep. And in this game here, 8-8 tie right now.
Yeah, we're in a tied
pieces.
match. Focus on the chess.
Yeah. Are you talking to yourself? Is that rhetorical, or am I supposed to parent you right now?
Yeah. Okay. F5. Trying to undermine the knight here, but Duda says, I don't care.
Yeah, because the king is in the wrong square. The king on f2 walks right into a check. So now you're going to take on c3, open up the b file for your rook. Now you can play rook b.
Yeah, but e6 is the problem.
So play rook fe8 and just protect it.
Knight c5.
Then your c3 pawn hangs.
C for e, I for an I. No, I'm kidding. Rook e8, I'll play rook a6. In fact, I may go for rook a6. Whoa, he's just going to give e6 for the idea of a3 and rook b2.
That's a really nice idea.
Yeah, so Hikaru does go rook a6.
So I think he should play a3 anyway. Okay, or not. But now rook a4, rook takes c4, but e5 falls. White will be up a pawn, but they're split pawns on the queen side. Not easy to push.
Yeah. In fact, not easy to push at all. Knight d6 is a good move from Hikaru, though, especially when you're up on the clock like this. You don't need to go for the forcing variations. You just kind of continue to confuse the situation, play a little tickle. Duda just lost a few more seconds on the clock. Now he takes it.
This is exactly what Duda doesn't want, because we just applauded him for being ahead in the clock in the last game, which he even the score with. Now he's down over a minute on the clock. And Speed spent, 10 seconds on rook takes e5 when wasn't that his plan the whole time?
Why?
I don't know. I think he needs better clock management in these moments here. And what's really annoying, though, for white is this knight on e4 is just pinned. So you're kind of stuck mutually for the time being.
Yep.
And maybe play rook c8 here, go after the c-pawn.
Rook c8,
rook e5
c4.
is awesome.
What?
The rook on e5 is awesome. Like rook c8, c4, play knight b6. Just keep going after the c-pawn. You're going to have a hard time protecting it. King h8. In what world is that move necessary?
He was trying to avoid some weird discovered checks or something. Yeah, that seems... It also seems like a weird move to play when you don't have any time on the clock. Oh, this is what he wanted. Because he didn't want you to take with check.
But is trading off here actually good? Like,
I don't know. Maybe he thinks that it's harder for white to deal with the pin than we realized.
Yeah, he's going to keep going rook check and back?
Yeah. That
that's kind of
answers our question. That's why you played king h8. It's actually really creative. The main point, everybody, is the pin on the knight means that even if you don't have a way to bring pressure, if this rook starts attacking other things, all of white's pieces are stuck guarding the knight. And so Duda, whoa, Hikaru walks right into the face of danger. He's allowing knight d5 check.
Well, what is he doing, actually? Is this okay for him? I mean, it's got to be king d3. The king will run to c2, I guess. But rook f3 check, knight e3 check to follow. A lot of checks here.
Yeah. No, and you have to be really careful if you're Hikaru. I think that, honestly, from a practical perspective, I like Hikaru's decision because Duda only has 16 seconds, but a rook b2 check here.
Rook b2 play king c1, I guess.
Oh, wow. You hang e1, but you win b2, and all of a sudden the king is perfect.
I like rook f3 a lot because c3 is now a target. Rook b2 check is still in the air.
Right.
You can't go king c2 because knight e3 check. I think having more rooks on the board is good for black's chances. It just
100% because the king is kind of vulnerable, right?
Yeah, bring the rook back to f8, then bring it to c8 maybe.
Rook b2 now, king c1.
No, this is exactly what we were talking about before.
Yeah, that was a big mistake by Duda, and he didn't have enough time to keep finding accurate moves, I think, and he kind of knows it with that sort of look right there, like, that didn't go as planned.
Yeah, he's getting, just the pawns are rolling now. C4, C5 is going to come. A5, A6, A7, A8 is probably what's going to happen first.
Knight B5. Well coordinated. Here comes the A pawn. Baby girl on A8. She's new to this world, but she's a queen. And because of that, Duda resigned. So with only 6 minutes and 50 seconds on the total, in the total time remaining, really the biggest issue for Duda has been on the clock, right? Overall, consistently under time pressure. I mean, Robert, that game was totally holdable. Black was fine, but you can't keep defending the most critical moments living on the increment.
No, absolutely not. And he's shown that he is incapable. Hikaru has proven he's too strong when it comes to the dwindling seconds there. And of course, we're going to mention that pawn endgame that was winning for Hikaru, then should have been a draw, but Jan-Krzysztof Duda didn't have enough time. And that's where it becomes critical. When you have like 18 seconds left, your opponent has a minute left, and you're trying to find the best ideas as quickly as possible while your opponent can sit and think and be like, wait a second, that last move doesn't look so good. Let me take advantage of it. And this is coming from somebody who's been in a lot of time trouble in his life.
Again, I'm really glad you brought it up.
Yeah, I know. You don't like to bring up my flaws. I bring them up myself, and you'll just agree.
Shout out to ICU Doomed, who says Hikaru is going to be appearing in CSI New York. Unstable internet connection, or bad internet connection. I love it. Let's get that guy a diamond membership. Send me a tweet, ICU.
That's pretty funny.
ICU Doom, send me a tweet. You'll get yourself a diamond membership because I'm like that. Shout out to almost 12,000 of you watching this in English. And then we have lots of other people watching in other languages. I don't speak any of them, so I'm not going to talk about them. Just kidding. That would be a really ugly thing to say. But you can watch in French, Russian, Polish, Spanish today and Portuguese. Okay.
This position here looks good. Jan-Krzysztof has been getting good positions.
He
on
has
the
been,
white side
but
of
it's been the
these
clock.
97
He
check.
had a good position in the last game, too.
97 check. Why is he even thinking? Like, the whole point of this bishop staring each other down on the diagonal. Okay, he played d5. I was going right for 97 check, but was 97 check just good, getting the two bishops?
To the back cave.
Like, it feels the opposite of good. Now you're just down a pawn.
97 check. You take. I win the two bishops, and I'm very happy. I agree with you 100%.
Well, white's not okay. Queen d6 is weird because you're inviting rook ad1 with a tempo. that to me, this whole game is strange, frankly. Yeah, I don't really get what's going on because the queen's trying to keep an eye on the e7 square. So maybe Hikaru is thinking that the position just isn't that great for him, even though he's up a pawn. The pawn c6 is a real thorn in his side. It's a passed pawn in the making. If I can get the c7 pawn off the board. So
he
they're
might
going to
just repeat this
moves.
one, and settle because he's not happy with how he approached that as white. Like you said, he had the advantage probably if he plays 97 and the bishop pair, but he'll get one more crack at the 3-minute time control, assuming this game ends quickly. If not, I mean, it's possible this could be our last 3-minute game, and we might be headed to bullet before you know it, folks, so don't go anywhere.
I think Hikaru would be wise to agree on a draw here.
I agree.
Playing queen h5, it looks like you may have some attack in the future, but
yeah, but plus it's one of the few games where Duda's not under time pressure, or Duda's not lower on the clock. So if I was Hikaru, I would also say, you know what, we'll throw down in one more 3-minute battle where I get the white pieces. So I expect Hikaru to repeat.
Yeah, and he gets the white piece in the final game.
Yep, that makes sense. And here we go.
Goes the bullet.
The draw is agreed. So this will pretty much officially probably be our last 3-minute game. So don't go anywhere, everyone. Not only have we had a blast today, but we have a very close match. It is a 1-point lead currently for the favorite, and bullet should be fun. We have some more responses. People getting active very quickly because of our daily question. At Viety Farm says Silicon Valley, they had some chess scenes, but unfortunately Silicon Valley has already filmed their final season. I actually know that because I was in it. Keep watching. Okay, just kidding. Next question. Jacob Fitzgerald says Westworld would make sense. Perhaps there's a chess. I had the thought it was Westworld or Watchmen. Maybe it is Ballers. Anyway, okay, next one. Watchmen is the kind of Naka show. It depends on what the character is, right? Is it like, hey, that's like one of the how would they introduce him? That's Hikaru Nakamura over there playing chess.
I don't watch Westworld, so I don't know, what he would be in that, but it's a cameo. So they'll have a chess scene. It'll be fun. What is knight f to d7? What am I watching here? Danny, I know I'm the one who typically plays offbeat openings and things like this. And I guess he's just going off the d4 pawn, but
dude, can I play bishop takes f7 and knight g5 and
that's
win
what
on the
I'm
spot?
wondering too.
Bishop takes f7, king takes, knight g5, and if you move, I know my puzzle rush. I know how to pop a pony.
No, but if you have knight e6, I have knight takes d4. He's knight takes d4.
Yeah, but you have knight takes g7 check.
So what? Then I go king f8
What do you mean,
or
so
something.
what?
I'm telling you, so what, Danny?
I'm telling you, so what?
All right, well, king f8.
King f8, I don't care. Queen d3
saying,
or d2.
You're saying so what? I'm saying Duda what? You're talking about a different player altogether. You don't know Jan-Krzysztof.
That was my first time I've duded.
I don't know what's going on. You got so quiet. It's scaring me.
I hope Hikaru wins this game just to prove you wrong.
Wow. You're not supposed to root for the players, Danny. Play c5 here. Protect that knight. Where's your knight on g7 going? That's a trap pony.
Hikaru's going to have an attack, and he's got the dark square bishop. You think I did that just for kicks and gigs, dude? I don't care about the pawn. Dark squares, you speak weaknesses?
I speak extra pawn in a fun-looking position here.
How much you want to bet Hikaru mates dude in the dark squares in this game? What's it worth to you?
Firstly, you're not allowed to bet right now.
I'm not. You're right. It's frowned upon.
It is. I just saw, one of your Cardinals players got suspended,
That's
right?
right. One of the Arizona Cardinals players. Apparently, there's a lot of that going on. Betting on your own games, on your own events.
Yeah, so
okay.
You clearly have not learned your lesson, sir.
Bishop d4 check. Don't call them my Cardinals when they play like this. I'm ready to scrap the whole Kyler Murray experiment, all right?
Whoa.
I'm kidding.
Whoa.
I just want to get
No,
your attention.
You weren't kidding. You were serious.
I'm frustrated. It's time to learn how to win a game.
Hey, I'm like in Black's position here.
Yeah, you would. Hikaru's still going to mate you on the dark squares. Actually,
It's
knight
not
d4 was
me.
a nice move. Yeah, f4 was no good by Hikaru.
He's not going to make me. I'm not playing.
Okay, you're right. I'm sorry. All right.
Although now, oh, you know what? Dan, you're going to laugh at this. I was like, why didn't you play queen takes f4? It's because queen's on c2, not on d2.
All right,
Oh,
queen is
gosh.
threatening to. I'm not going back. The dark squares, dark squares, dark squares.
Rookie
You got
8.
99
you're
of
right,
them.
though. You
Actually,
only have
32, but
32. Yeah.
you got a lot of them, and I'm
But
gonna Jay-Z all
nobody's
up in
counting.
them. I'm gonna Jay-Z all up in them, my man.
Oh, I'm getting so distracted because the chat's like talking about Kyler is the only QB who looked good against the Niners. I mean, Kenyon Drake looked good against the Niners that game. It was all Kenyon. Anyway, back to the chess.
Okay, queen d4 check. You run. I play g3. Undermine the knight. At some point, the h file comes open. Don't worry, I'll buy you a beer after. That's how it's gonna happen.
Well, he plays
Yeah, he
G3.
plays g3 first. I love it.
Yeah, this is starting to look really bad for Black.
Well, plus the time on the clock. I mean, I know we're having fun arguing, but from a practical point of view, this has not been easy for Black from the start. Okay.
Right.
The lack of development, the fact that you went for this bishop takes f7. You're right. I overreacted. Bishop takes f7 was not winning, but still looks good for white.
Although, watch out for knight c4 coming. So that's why he played rook
he
d4.
saw it. He
It's a nice
backed up.
move. So queen e7 looks like a must, but then just take on f4, and white's sitting with a great position.
Yeah, or even take. Oh yeah, okay. Takes f4. Now the knight has to retreat.
Oh.
Knight g2.
Oh. This feels like a pony that's wandered too far.
Yeah, Hikaru was ready for it too. The time is ticking. He's going to run the king away.
Wait, but if king b1 is a rook takes f5?
That would have
That's
been
why
fun.
That's why he played queen back. I think he was
Yeah.
worried about some kind of
And
rook takes
as
f5.
you pointed out, he's like, I don't need to mate you on the dark squares anymore because your knight is no good.
But the knight does protect g6.
And you're
which is-
threatening knight f3, so now Hikaru has to be careful. I think rook f2, and if takes, you have rook g1, forcing knight g6.
Yeah, rook f2 does look like a promising move, right?
Ah, wait, he finds another way. He plays it second time around, and again, if you take, there's rook g1. That's kind of the idea.
And then king f7. Can you just hide?
Oh, okay. Okay.
Duda is super
He
resourceful.
is. He's super resourceful. Okay,
knight-
why can't I get at your king? And why
Knight
does rook here
G6?
make you burp? All right.
Honestly, knight d3 coming,
Dude,
bishop
Duda
d3
has
coming.
gotten out of this 100%.
Wow. I'm shocked because it looked so good for Hikaru. And this is the moments where I was applauding him earlier because he was taking his time
Yep.
when he was up a lot of time. Now he's moving very quickly, and I think it's backfiring in this game.
Okay,
I
but
like Black's position.
here's the problem. Even with all that work, dude is still down to 7 seconds. He's one swindle by Hikaru away from blundering. He doesn't have
Yeah,
any
this is-
time to think about it.
Knight d3. Okay, with knight f3. So knight. Oh gosh, it's so hard to come up with moves when you have 5 seconds left.
Yeah. And now b6 is falling. This is maybe just a check. No, he's got to guard it. Actually,
Yeah,
wait.
there's
That's actually really hard to deal with. So he's checking instead.
Wait, king g6. Can you actually take the rook on e8? Knight c. Oh,
Knight
there's no.
c2, king moves. Whoa.
Yeah, king just moves away. King
This moves-
c1.
okay, you're threatening rook d1, which is mate, everybody, but it doesn't matter. He just gets rid of the bishop and it's over. Up a
Yep.
piece and on the clock. Hikaru Nakamura doing what he does best, and that's winning games in the Speed Chess Championship.
Yeah.
Wow. Again, it's not to say that Duda didn't defend that super well, but the time eventually caught up with him.
Yeah, you can't be living on 5 seconds for too long because, well, Hikaru's going to make you pay.
Now, if you had to ask Duda heading in if he would take a 2-game disadvantage in bullet, I'm going to guess he wouldn't have been thrilled because, you know, we know how good Hikaru was in bullet, but for some reason, our smarter chess stats have Jan-Krzysztof Duda as actually the favorite in bullet. We're going to explain exactly why that is when we come back from a very quick break. Don't go anywhere. The Speed Chess Championship returns in just a few moments. Bullet, 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 bullet can Duda take down Naka in bullet. He's gonna have to play fast and find some good moves. Let's see if Robert Hess has some news. It's bullet.
I can attest that you literally just made that up right now.
Right now.
Like, that was all, you know,
The only thing that was happening in the off scene is me and my producer were going, it's bullet, 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 bullet. Anyway, do you got any news for us? Let's go to the Smarter Chess predictions and talk about how Danny was wrong. Apparently, JKD is not the favorite in bullet, but it is the time control where he's expected to lose by the least. LOL.
Surprise, surprise that Hikaru Nakamura is the favorite, and surprise, surprise that Danny Rensch was wrong.
Well, you know what? Good things do happen on chess shows. You know what else? We've had a lot of people with us today. We still have nearly 11,000 of you just in English, let alone the other languages. So no matter where you're tuning in from, multiple streaming platforms, thanks for making us part of your day. We appreciate all the support we've had as well. It does come down to this. Again, if you're just joining us, lots of crazy action today. We've had mouse slips, misclicks. We've had disconnection issues. Currently, we have Hikaru Nakamura on a terrible internet connection there. But he will be back on camera with us after interviews. Do not worry. And we're ready. The bullet is about to begin. Let's do this.
And Duda needs to get off to a good start here with a win, because he cannot afford to go down 3 games.
Again, I know I sang a little song, and normally I'm wrong. Oh, my gosh, that rhymed. But Duda has been down 2 games before in the bullet portion.
He's been down more than 2, right?
That's right. He was down 3 games entering the bullet versus Grishuk in his first year last year, and he came back and won. He was down 2 games with 6 minutes left. So if anybody thinks that Duda loses himself or doesn't have his wits about him in bullet, you'd be totally wrong. I'm not surprised to see the smarter chess predictions giving him a chance here.
Yeah, just clear favorite for Hikaru. And right now in this position, I like what Duda's done, but I don't like his clock management. Like every game, I think we've said the same thing. His position looks fine, but then we look at the clock and we're like, oh, that's not good. And he's playing some offbeat stuff that Hikaru clearly feels comfortable with. And what's the idea here? If you castle and the bishop on e7 is left undefended, the pawn c7.
There's knight c6, I think, because that doubles the pawns, maybe.
Or you can start with rook c1, perhaps.
I like that even better. Gain a tempo here. You can move the knight with discovery. Obviously, if the trade happens, you win e7. Yeah, he goes for this.
Right, because you can't go bishop d6 now because I take.
You can't play bishop d6 now because of takes and knight e7. We just completed each other's
sentence, and
I was a little late. My bad. Bishop d8, but now you can trade and win c7.
Yeah, but
yeah, it's obstacle with bishop ending, probably equal. Duda wants more.
Yeah, he wants to get activity. He's saying that I'm going to try to be better in this endgame, not just allow you to liquidate, but with rook e8, rooks getting traded, and, well, opposite colored bishops, even amount of material. Hikaru would be wise to just keep playing this, right?
Yep. Get time off that clock. Time off that clock.
This is the most drawn of drawn positions.
Well, it's not the most drawn.
That's true. King versus king is a little more drawn.
There you go. Really stole my thunder on that one. All right, bishop d2 to stop. No, actually, wait. Now Hikaru's turning it around. Rook c2, rook d2, I guess. Look at, he legit knows what he's doing. Hikaru is keeping the rooks on the board on purpose. If you're Duda, just start repeating now, because your hope should be that you just get a position 3 times.
Oh, h4.
Oh, wow. What a move. Okay,
yeah, g5 was sick.
If pawn takes, h4, 1 apiece, everybody. I'll try to show it in the back cave after the bullet game is done. Nice move by Hikaru.
Wow, Hikaru might just pick this one up, actually.
Yeah. And again, what we're pointing out is regardless of whether he wins this one, every second off of that clock there that's ticking, 27 minutes, gets him closer to a victory. So,
and he, Duda is relying on the f6 pawn being bishop c3 here, just get the f6 pawn. And I think he's oh no, don't take that pawn.
Yeah, now g2 is a problem. That was weird.
Very strange. Take f6, but now king e4 and king. Okay, so the h3 pawn.
Hikaru is he's so good in these positions, though. I mean, you can even bring the king over and threaten ideas of sacking at some point.
If the rooks get traded, it's immediately a draw.
Yep.
So that's the good news for white. The bad news is you're down a pawn. The rooks are still on the board.
But he goes for that idea. This is the right way to try for a win. Because if you take and win this and then put the bishop on g2, like you can. Yeah, he's trying to set it up. Maybe he wants the a3 pawn first. He's trying to set up the sack, so Duda's trying to stop it.
Now rook f2 check, h2 check, bishop c6
it's
check.
over.
Give me a queen.
Yep. King moves, h2. Okay, this works as well, but H2 is good enough, and that's, like I said, abandon all hope, ye who enter here. Bullet portion against Hikaru Nakamura.
Never fun to be playing down against Hikaru in bullet chess.
Well, Duda started out well. Again, I think the time management was something we've been critical of. Right now, look, he's really put on the gas. He's got more time than Hikaru does. Currently, they're gaining on the clock.
Yep.
But you've got to strike now. If you're Duda, it's victory time. Ooh,
Yeah,
knight takes e6 would have been fun.
Well,
I mean,
that's
not
the thing.
good, but fun.
Yeah, exactly. Duda wants that kind of stuff to happen.
Yeah.
He wants Hikaru to do something that really is unprompted.
This is where he's like, especially with a lead, he knows how to play positions that like you can't lose, and you can take. Let's make a prediction right now. What's the total time on the clock after this game's over?
So it's about what 25 plus minutes right now. It'll be like
22 minutes.
22 exactly.
Yeah, like another 3 minutes coming off the clock here. Super tough.
At least because they're getting a second per move each side. But I'm starting to like Black's position. Like the rooks in the D file look better than the rook on A1 and the rook on the H file. And I like what Duda's doing. He's playing for a win.
Yeah, and that's probably your best strategy, right?
Yep. But Hikaru's going to play G4. There it is. And he undermines the pawns. So as soon as I complimented Duda's position, all of a sudden looks like, well, you're not really getting much out of it here, are you?
Yeah, but he's still, at least he split him. No.
And the good news is in some endgames, the outside pawn is good for Black.
Yeah.
The bad news is, well, we're not getting into a position where that will come to matter.
Right, and it's a rook ending.
So the H5 pawn also can become a target if you're not careful. Rook E7 is something to think about.
Rook
Don't get
H8.
mated. Yep, don't get mated. But exactly, if you trade off these rooks now, then it would be a problem for White. But
if the rooks come off now, the outside passer will win for Black because you sack it, you win the F pawn, and your king's closer. But look at Hikaru playing the move A6.
King F5 was a very good response.
You got to guard C6 and hope your king can run in.
Ooh, passive defense here, but the King E4, King D3. All right, he's going to keep the pawn protected.
That might be
first.
it.
That makes sense.
Now he's betting B5. Nice maneuver by Hikaru.
So rook B6. You got to make sure your rook is protected. Whoa.
He doesn't do it.
Okay, rook A5, rook C5. That's really nice.
Okay, so he's still fine, but I wonder if he missed that almost.
Like he found a nice way out. I mean, it's funny.
Yeah.
We talked about that Maxime Vachier-Lagrave, Magnus Carlsen endgame.
Yep.
Was that yesterday or 2 days ago? Yesterday. It was like, this is still a draw, but do not play like this. This might be one of the same situations where Duda is still holding, and this is now easy draw territory. But it looked tricky for a second there.
Well, they're gonna go back and forth here. A little bit of shuffle puck.
What?
Okay. Hikaru is thinking about having mercy. Gonna trade, or he's just gonna let time go.
He's gonna let time go.
He's gonna let time go. Yeah.
Just waste the next 30 seconds.
Waste the next 30 seconds. If you're he politely agrees to the draw there. So that was not necessarily the best overall gamesmanship strategy. Hikaru perhaps feeling pretty confident right now, but overall the main thing is that Duda has to get up on the clock here. Now I know he tried that game, but he was Black, and Hikaru took a very good opening choice. A lot of simplification. They were in a rook ending on move 15. So you got to mix it up.
Yep.
Get up on the clock and make it sharp.
3-game lead for Hikaru here. And speaking of making it sharp, right now we're in one of these kind of sharp positions where if you end up taking on D4, like knight D4, E4, you probably play C3, sacrifices a pawn, tries to blast the position open. And Hikaru very wisely, he opts for the tame position, the closed position, saying, all right, let's be chill. You're going to have to prove that you can outplay me in the structure.
We saw them play this one before, and Duda got a pretty good position. Okay, not this exact line, but a closed Spanish. But ultimately, that was one of the crazy ones where Hikaru launched that wild attack on the king side.
Right, and he ended up making a draw there from a crazy... He was first down 2 pawns and much worse. Then he did a King's Indian style attack, and then somehow the game ended in a draw.
Okay, here this looks much more promising for Hikaru than that one did. I mean, I know he launched an attack, but, It was part bluff.
Yeah, but this looks good for white because white's the only one who could start pushing forward on the king side, and the queen side's totally closed.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, this might be a king's Indian attack for Duda. If you could go on a king journey, right? Put on your running shoes, Forrest. Get out of here and let the rook do the job. He's going to do it.
King G1.
He's going to do it. Oh, I love it. There you go. Just keep going. Just keep swimming.
F4 at some point is obviously going to be a consideration.
Right.
And
ooh, G5. I don't know if that was right for Hikaru. Now you, although I guess he's saying I can just lock it up.
Yep. Here's Queen F3 though, and your king has to go back to G8, and your king needs to stay on the king side. That's a problem. Knight F5.
Knight H5 hits F6.
How does he break through? Some kind of sacrifice at C5 at the right moment is something
I think you want to double rooks on the H file, move the queen, and get the other knight to F3, so you can really break through on G5. Whoa!
Oh no, this is not.
What's he doing? Right. He must see something we don't. No.
Can you just go Knight G6, Knight F4?
Oh, that was not the right decision. When you own the tension there, you've got to build on that. Everybody, that was due to misevaluated something there. That was definitely the wrong play.
Okay, but actually now all of a sudden you can't take on D3. Because there's going to be ideas of the G5 pawn, right? So you have to be very careful from both sides. Here comes Knight E3, Knight F5 is coming at the right moment.
Right.
Here it is, Knight E3, he's ready.
Okay.
And you take with the G pawn on F5. Okay,
but still, it just, like, you get there and I trade and then what?
Yeah, it's also a good question.
Still think that he had many more cards if he built on the tension there.
Yeah, now it looks like even if you get those maneuvers in, nothing is...
Wait, he's going to prepare to sack on C5 or something?
Oh, wait, now the H6 pawn, can you actually... So Queen H2... I guess you're not really in time.
You can play Bishop E2, guard F3, so the rook is free.
You got the Alyokin's gun.
Yeah, queen behind the two rooks. Put that thing away. You got a license for that? That's an Al Johan's gun. I've been waiting to use that for so long.
You had your moment. It was your time to shine.
It happened. Oh. Can I just take the mic off and retire? I was waiting. Oh, man.
But this is the worst situation for...
Yeah, this is the worst for Duda. You know, we have to give Hikaru credit. We're going to be bringing back more man versus machine matches. You and I were doing commentary for those where we would have top grandmasters throw down against Komodo and the computers, right? In, like, different material imbalances. We also did that Twitch Rivals event that Hikaru played in where you try to take on Komodo, kind of the boss rush, right, from 0 to whatever. But one thing Hikaru does so well in those that you and I talked about that he's kind of doing here is he's so good at dictating the opening per the situation. Like, how many times does he get the right opening against the computer where, again, yes, it's still a computer, but how many times does he get those positions, the only few positions left that we know computers can misevaluate in terms of space, in terms of pawn structure? And I know this isn't the same, but look at what he just did here. He just took 5 minutes off the clock.
What?
Wait, he blundered. No. Yes. Yeah, we did blunder.
No, he
didn't. He's
going
to win now because Duda lost it. Duda went on tilt. Now Queen D2 comes in.
And is that trap?
What Hikaru does is he's so good at dictating the game based on the match situation. I mean, I'll let you answer that once this one's over. But I know you and I have talked about that a lot, and it isn't the most important X's and O's skill, but when it comes to the practical matches like this, it really shines through. By the way, he is going to win this game.
I don't know. Bishop C2?
Knight G2. He's going to work it in.
Oh,
Look at
my
this.
gosh. The dark squares.
It's just crazy. This reminds me of how Hikaru plays against the computers.
No, you're absolutely right. He makes a million moves.
Yep.
The computer ends up doing something a little nutty. And that's what he used to do in ICC way back in the day.
Yeah.
But, yeah.
Back when he was up way past his bedtime. And I have to message his dad, like, hey, tell him to go to bed.
This is mate. Knight C2, Queen A1 is mate. Now Queen takes D1 is a free piece. That game took forever.
We feel the same way, dude.
How long did that game just take? Like 7 minutes
or
something?
And Hikaru won. Only because Duda went on tilt and played Bishop takes G5. Let's go back and just show that moment. Again, it's not to say that the point is Duda got frustrated here. He doesn't have to play Bishop takes G5. But Hikaru, again, just dictated this game, created this closed structure where, he was going to continue to milk time off the clock, and Duda said, I can't do this anymore. I got to create something. But in the end, it was sort of, blinding himself, convincing that this was okay. But it's actually very quickly you realize that was not right.
Nope.
All right, back to the live game. But seriously, and again, it's, we know he does a lot of things well, but that's something that Hikaru does uniquely, maybe better than any other top grandmasters on the planet, because he's played so much, like you said, on ICC. When we were younger, you remember Hikaru, I made jokes about staying up too late, but he would throw down against, the crafty on ICC, right? And beat the computer in Blitz and Bullet by playing these openings that the computers would misevaluate space and misevaluate things like the bishop pair, the things where you could really recognize the few weaknesses left in the algorithm. And it was just crazy. So, wow.
Look at Duda go here, though. He's winning this one. Just taking the B pawn, and that's going to be a runner. There's no attack for white. There is a clear pass pawn for black. And this just spells bad news for Hikaru Nakamura in this particular game. Of course, he's still up 4. It's going to be 3 after this one, but a good strike back for Duda.
Yep.
So what, just rook C2 here or something? Just push that B pawn? He's thinking. Spending the time. There's rook C2. And now... Okay, can't go B2. You're hanging your rook on C2. I was about to blunder that. So you need to move your rook again, I guess. Rook E2 coming after the E5 pawn. This just looks good. Extra pass pawn for black. Not extra pawn because you're even number material. Even number pawns, but
But the B pawn will push.
So what's the threat now? Rook F4. I guess it's trying to go to B4, and that's mating on the back rank. Uh-oh. Okay, he stopped the back rank mate, but now his rook is pinned to the queen. And how do you get out of that? Wait, this actually is
really irritating.
Yeah, I'm not sure how you get out of it. Looks like his rook's just stuck there.
Ambulance arriving just in time.
Yeah, for that rook. It's like, let me extricate that piece here. But queen E5, queen B3, queen takes E6.
Duda shakes his head. That got away from him.
Everything going wrong for Duda. He's now going to be down a pawn rather than promoting a pass pawn. This is terrible. It also might just be losing as well.
How many ambulances are going to drive by your window right now, buddy?
It's just one, and it's moving, but you can hear ambulances from a while away.
Are they coming to rescue you?
I don't know if people from small towns know these things, but when there are other cars around and stuff like that,
Robert,
you need to
blink
make sure
twice if you're being held against your will.
Yeah, that joke is played out, man. I'm going to blink twice because that joke was so bad. There you go.
Thank you for that, actually. So wait, are you okay, though? Seriously? Okay.
We'll talk about it after the
show. Shout out to Chess Brainiac 13 in the Chess TV chat, who says wants to know if he'll get a premium membership if he wins Guess the Move. If you win Guess the Move, I will give you a diamond membership. How about that? Okay.
Me?
No, just Chess Brainiac.
Oh, I wanted one so badly.
If Chess Brainiac goes and plays and wins Guess the Move, if you finish in the top 5 after one game, I will give you a diamond membership. I've been watching Guess the Move. If you want to play Guess the Move, by the way, you can go over to Chess.com's live server and do so right now. Aviakin Arkady is 14 out of 37 on this game. Good for him. So get in there, Chess Brainiac. Go get yourself a diamond membership, courtesy of Danny Has Too Much Time to Kill.
Well, speaking of time to kill, and it's not really too much time, but
it's working it. He's working it.
He spent a lot of time in this game.
Yep.
And we're already getting to territory where it might be impossible for Jan-Krzysztof to come back.
Yep.
Because of how long these bullet games. This is 80 moves.
No,
Last game was 100
again,
moves.
we kind of set it up, and we were saying, what did Duda need heading into Bullet? He needed a lead, and part of it was not just because, okay, it's nice to have a lead against Hikaru in Bullet, but also because of Hikaru's gamesmanship that he does better than everybody else. I mean, he's literally this is going to be the fewest amount of Bullet games we've ever played.
Right.
Seriously, this is game 4 in Bullet.
And we might only get 7 games because of how long
this is game 4, and we've lost 20 minutes on the clock. I mean, it's just crazy. It's crazy. You can do Guess the Move at chess.com/live. Thank you, Tundra Mike, our moderator over there, sharing the link to Diamond member Dubs123. Shout out to everybody that's with us. I'm going to address this only once because honestly it's so ridiculous that I don't really respond to most of the trolling in chat. But for those of you who followed the Speed Chess Championship, we've actually had several matches in history where people have lost their camera because of bad connection, and we've done this before. So there is zero special treatment going on, and in all of those cases, the opponent gave permission. Duda said he was 100% okay with this, and if anybody thinks for a second that our algorithm in terms of anti-cheating has anything to do with people on camera, then you're missing something. So it's so ridiculous I even have to say that. But we're going to squelch it right now. So from here on out, mods, you have opinions. You just mute things if the conversation continues. So Hikaru was in a tough situation today with his internet, and he will be joining us. But we'll just address that real quick. So there you go. Robert, Hikaru Nakamura, what are you going to say?
Well, I was going to say that Duda was, he was great about it. He was. Like, yep, sure, that's fine. But
he was also great earlier in the blitz. He had his chances to keep the lead.
Yeah, he did. And right now, look at this position with the double E pawns for black. The E5 pawn is actually under attack and can be captured. So Jan-Krzysztof was thinking about it because the D5 pawn is now under threat as well because knight C3 is pinned.
This is it's a queen's. I was going to say this is a Nimzo right up my alley for black. I checked on the ECO there, but black can. So you're saying you like white here, right?
I'm not sure, but I don't like white's clock management.
Okay, I was going to say, this reminds me of a Nimzo I had once.
How'd that go for you?
It's Siberia. You do the math. These positions often kind of work. It's weird because white gets a huge center and black looks like the position is hanging on a thread, but in the end, we're in an endgame where, actually the position is probably just totally balanced, but I think black is fine. He's not better, but fine.
Oh, I actually like black's position in this endgame.
Yeah.
I think the knight on E5 is perfectly placed. Here comes D5, and soon comes C5 if I can get it in.
King C7.
C5 right now. And the C4 pawn is just under attack. Play D4. There it is. Now I have a protected pass pawn, and nice, capture C4 first. He said he flip-flopped the pin. Black's pawn was pinned on D5. Now white's pawn is pinned on D4.
Yep. D5, you can't play rook F6, but maybe put a rook on D6 first. Oh, I thought you couldn't because H5. But he wants to trap the knight. Okay. He trades the D4. I don't know that was the best decision for Hikaru, honestly. I think you could have slow jammed that a little bit better, but maybe the C pawn is just strong and the bishop on D3. Never mind, I'm wrong again. White's,
yeah, looks good. Looks good for Hikaru.
Yeah, white's in trouble. The two pawns are too fast.
Here come the pawns, and they're queening. And unfortunately for Jan-Krzysztof, this is just, out of his hands at this point.
Yeah. Hikaru Nakamura is going to punch his ticket right now into the semifinals. With only 8 minutes left, a 5-game lead, this is just super tough. And right now, Duda's hoping to get on the board here and bullet with a victory. So, tough stuff.
And he played a French, so that's why
That's why you're silent?
Yeah.
A moment of silence?
Although all things considered, this is a pretty decent French because your bishop's not there. You can castle queen side.
Yeah.
You can try to get counterplay over there on the king side.
Yeah, if the F-file gets going, you also have H6 and G5, which is kind of a common sack to create counterplay over here. Oh, yep. That's a nice move, though. So much for that.
Yeah, now it looks just bad.
Yeah, it looks bad again. Hashtag the French.
This pawn structure from B2 to E5, beautiful.
Yeah. I love how we do that a lot. Wait, it looks bad again. Hashtag the French.
It just always happens, right? Whenever we see the French, we're like, oh, gosh. Not liking this. And here comes a mating attack, probably. So how do you actually checkmate, though? I see the D6 square.
He's lost a lot of pawns.
So he's down 2 pawns, but now C3 is about to fall. And that knight's going to take on C3, go knight B5. And
yep. Knight B5, knight D6. Actually, you could even put the bishop on D6 if you're into that.
I was thinking about that before he went 92. I was like, the D6 square is
maybe he
juicy.
should. Oh, is he just going to repeat? No.
No way.
Repeats it the second time. I think bishop A3 right away might have been better, but all right. Hikaru still has rook F7 coming. This still looks super scary.
He can't take an A3 because knight B5 check, so the bishop is not hanging.
You saw the look on my face?
I actually didn't, but I just felt it.
He said, Dan, that's a fork, buddy.
Yep. You
Do your
eat with those
tactics.
things.
Do your tactics, kids. Don't end up like me. Rook takes a3, knight b5. That means black's position is running out. The thread is missing.
Yeah, looks like it's another defeat for Mr. Jan-Krzysztof here. It's gotta be so frustrating to play Hikaru Nakamura for like 30 minutes straight of blitz. Bullet.
Yep.
And like 3 hours or so of blitz and bullet and just I'm winning. I'm up 2 games.
I think there is one. Obviously we know how tough Hikaru is, and we know that there's probably going to be some other critical games due to which he could have back. But I really feel like the overarching storyline of why he went away from e4 is something we have to touch on in the interview.
Yeah, it'll be very interesting to hear what his rationale was, because the positions he got out of e4 looked very good to us, but there must have been something he didn't like after all. And here come the kingside pawns for white.
Yep.
Trying to create a passed pawn, get rid of the G pawn, throw the H1 down the board, and wait, so is there...
But wait, if the king escapes, hey, I may have a new home on the light squares. Look at that.
King comes to b5, and queen b7, though. Here it is. Queen
okay,
a6 is
the
mate.
threat is what? Bishop. Okay, the threat is bishop c7.
No, queen a6 is mate.
I'm so glad that you pass all the tests I throw at you. A little test here, a little test there.
I've learned over time to get used to it. Queen a6 check. King takes before queen a3 check. Pick up the rook, and there's no...
Yep, queen a3, rook falls, and with it, officially, the match likely does. And wowzers. Oh, man. Well, I'm trying to think of interview questions. I think that the e4 situation was definitely curious. We can ask Jan-Krzysztof how he felt as the match kind of got away from him a little bit. But in the end, what we know is that it's really hard to compete with Hikaru in bullet.
Yeah,
I literally have lost my voice. But guess who had the moment of the match today?
Jan-Krzysztof Duda with that amazing checkmate.
We're going to get into that in a little bit, because that was something. If you missed that, you're going to want to stick around, because in about oh wow, we're almost there. In about 4 minutes time, we'll be headed to interviews, and we had maybe one of the greatest Speed Chess Championship games of all time. Robert would probably already dub it the greatest, but I'd have to think about it for a little bit.
I definitely have recency bias, but I can't remember a game that was better.
Yeah, it was literally an absolute brilliancy by Jan-Krzysztof Duda, and it was a blast commentating on it to go with it. So unfortunately, all that gets you is like a pat on the back and a moment of the match sticker. But we actually have moment of the match stickers. We send it to you, and Jan-Krzysztof's got a few of them on his shirt.
Yeah, it's funny you say that, because I was just thinking, what can you get for a brilliant game? Some tournaments, over the board tournaments, have brilliancy prizes, which is always a fun little thing. But yeah, all he gets is, he got Hikaru angry, and then Hikaru said, "I'm going to just beat you the rest of the way." And since then, it's been all Hikaru Nakamura.
Yeah, we saw a stat earlier where it's been 9-4 since the 3-1 portion started.
And
yeah.
Wait, the king is surviving. The king's running to a4.
Okay. Wait, knight c3? No? Oh, it's pinned.
Oh, actually, knight c3 is knight c3 I go king b3 back. So actually,
well, now there's threats of knight b6 check, and wait, the knight guards the queen. So actually, white is totally fine here.
But you just need to figure out what a good move.
Yeah, what are you gonna do?
Rook takes g7 is interesting, because
he's kind of offering a draw with this. No, he's not offering a draw with king b3. He's trying to run away. I was just gonna say maybe he knows there's only 2 minutes left, and he's like, "What am I gonna do?" But we know Duda wants to play for the win.
Yeah, but he's playing for a loss, I think. Queen f6 comes. D2 is an option. White doesn't have an attack here. Okay. Queen e2, trying to mate on b2, so you got to bring your rook to h2 or take on g7, one of the two. Rook g7, king g7.
Queen
there
d4.
He goes for it.
Oh, I thought queen d4.
Queen d4 would have probably been a draw, I guess. After knight f6, queen takes rook. There's queen c2, queen c3 checks forever.
Yeah, we already know Duda doesn't want to draw. He could have had it if he wanted to keep his king over there on a4. Very likely we will have at least one game after this, but who knows? Maybe this game lasts a whole nother minute and 20 seconds.
With this time trouble and Duda really struggling with limited time on the clock, I'm not sure this game won't end in the next few minutes. It seems like it will.
Yeah, but we've seen crazier things. The increment making a game last way longer than it normally would. Okay. Now what?
So white is up a pawn and somehow is the safer king.
Yeah, somehow Duda got out of that alive. Queen d2 check. You have queen d7 check. Oh, but it doesn't win the knight. But you have.
Does that force the? Okay, he's moving his king up. Duda not afraid to move his king up in this. Queen g6 mate. Oh my gosh. I'm like looking at the position like, wait, where's the follow-up? Oh, that's mate in one.
That was a double attack. Knight and mate on g6. All right. Well, Duda will not go silent into the knight when it comes to bullet. Oh, look at that. We have the Bond cloud. We had requests for it. Hikaru goes full stream. Plays e3, e2. Now, if you're Duda, you want to beat him here, but let's be honest. Other Super Grandmasters have also lost to Hikaru in the Bond cloud, so it's not the worst thing.
Yeah, he's having fun. He's already won the match, so why not? And
Queen a4.
Do you remember the Wesley So Mamedyarov match where they played like a3 h6 or something like that?
Yeah. Well, where did we
really
have
fun.
that recently? We had Wesley. So who was the match he just played versus MVL?
No, it was against Mamedyarov though.
That was before, but just recently the match with MVL, they had some trolling there in the end.
I only remember the Mamedyarov one, but you're probably right. Wesley enjoys a little bit of trolling every now and then.
Well, he usually doesn't start it, but he does play along.
Yeah, he's a friendly guy.
I think
He'll
Hikaru's
join
going to
in.
regret the Bond cloud in this one, though.
You mean the king on e1 that can't castle right now is a problem?
And the fact that knight takes f3 check is coming, and yeah, Nepo and Dingley Ren also got jiggy with it.
I don't remember. What did they do?
They had some fun, some silly openings. Yeah. Harry met Sally, kind of thing.
Enjoying the flank.
Join the flank openings. Knight takes f3 check.
Okay, so e4 is not hanging because the rook on d8 needs defense. So the queen's will. Although now, actually, because bishop e4 is when my queen takes e4 for white. So that's going to be a problem for black.
That's actually a really cool trick. If takes, you take. And you're exposing the back rank. Actually, you got to be careful with that move. Queen b4, I was just going to say, you got to be careful because you're overloading the queen now. Due to getting under time pressure, Hikaru wants to survive a Bond cloud.
He might just win this game even. The extra material is...
Duda sacks the queen?
Okay, because the
Hikaru
rook
doesn't
d2,
want it?
Yeah, rook d2 would have been a problem.
Okay, but watch out for queen a2.
Ooh.
I think you might have missed that.
Oh, queen c4 here. Only move, because you can't take an f6.
You can't
queen
take.
g6.
Queen c4 if you take. Queen g8. Ooh. Maybe Hikaru missed that? No, he has something better.
Well, f6 is hanging, so at the very least, after queen b2, I can just take his knight.
Yeah, that was a mistake there by Hikaru. Queen c4. Now he's just getting a check on... Oh, I thought he was going to check on f8 first and then take, but same thing.
Okay, he's blocking it. He's got the pawns going.
2 seconds, though. Duda living off the increment. Will he send Hikaru home with a Bond cloud loss? Knight d4 check is possible, but what does it do?
Oh, he's hanging
Hikaru's
these
just
pawns.
grabbing every pawn. Queen a2.
Uh-oh.
There you go.
c5 is like the move you just instantly regret.
And that'll do it. Hikaru Nakamura goes down swinging in a couple games, but entertains his fans in the process. Ultimately, he does move on to the Speed Chess Championship semifinals in a game that was in a day that was full of drama and fun. We have interviews with the players in just a few moments, so don't go in. When we come back, we are joined by both players. The Speed Chess Championship returns.
my gosh! That is such a sick move.
That was so awesome. You were talking, and I wasn't on camera. I looked first, and I looked, and I went, "Woo!" Okay, everyone. If you take the queen, it was mate, and now he's got queen a2 for free.
Players, and I'd never root against Hikaru Nakamura when there's speech chess. Queen a1 check. Oh my god! That was sick,
mate. We have a party. 19 Speed Chess Championship, the last quarterfinal is in the books. Hikaru Nakamura wins by a score of 15.5, 11.5. Thank you, everyone who's with us here for the interviews. Jan-Krzysztof, I know that the day didn't go your way, but take us back to that game where you played queen a3 and then you played queen a1. That was fun, right? We can't hear Jan-Krzysztof? Sorry,
Yeah,
say that.
I don't remember this game. Which one it was?
You don't remember the game? Robert almost fell out of his chair.
No, actually, I lost control. I mean, I didn't expect to get 2-0 in the first two games, and then I played definitely too slowly, I think. And yeah, and then I lost many games, I think, by time. I mean, thanks to time trouble. But I think the crucial game was the one which in this modern, I don't know how it's called, G6,
Yes.
65. And okay, I was on +2 then, and I thought, okay, I was totally winning. And in case of +3, it would be, I think, obviously there still would be, I would have to play bullet, but okay, I would be in very good spot. But instead, I lost very easily, and it was kind of very annoying to me. I mean, obviously, we both missed very simple tactics, I think. Hikaru also had internet issues, and he also lost it in the very first game, and it was kind of very surprising to me. But okay, such things happen, and yeah, and okay, in the bullet I did everything just to lose every game. It wasn't good enough to lose everything in 2-0. Yeah.
Well, Hikaru, back over to you, and Jan-Krzysztof obviously kind of touched on it, right? There was a mouse slip in game one. You had internet issues, and you've played in more Speed Chess Championship matches than anybody, right? So you have experience, but today was definitely some new obstacles, right? You normally don't have internet issues, and you normally don't have mouse slips. So how were you feeling at that point when 3-1 started? Were you kind of giving yourself a pep talk and trying to keep the nerves calm, or take us through what was going through your head there?
Yeah. Well, I mean, I think Jan-Krzysztof hit the nail on the head, which was the Gurgenidze game, the modern Gurgenidze with the C6. He was completely winning. And if he wins this game, I mean, I think he wins the match. Because pretty much I felt like I was on tilt for the whole match until probably the bullet section. Like even in the 3+1, like I was moving so fast. There's this queen a3 game, which like I think I just evened up the score, and then it's like, okay, I'm going to castle right into this diagonal because there's probably, nothing. Of course, there's queen a3, which is a very nice move. Yeah, so I mean, I thought I was on tilt, and I thought just Jan-Krzysztof, he was a little bit, his time usage relative to the moves he was playing wasn't quite right, because he got, I thought, pretty good positions in most of the games, but then like he didn't put it away. Like there was also this this game with this Italian where I got this crazy attack on the king side, and I think he was just completely winning that one as well. So I mean, I was just very much on tilt, I felt, for the whole match, but I found a way to win the games that mattered in the 3+1, and then of course bullet was pretty smooth.
Yeah, and Jan-Krzysztof, I have a question for you. Early in the match, you were playing e4 and facing the Berlin line several times, and then you switched to d4. What was it that made you want to switch your first move of the game?
Yeah, I decided I would play e4 until I have good score. But when I was -1, I guess, then I switched to d4. I mean, I have prepared mainly some lines after d4, but even didn't manage to play them in this match because, okay, I thought that in Berlin I was getting quite good positions. I mean, quite easy to play at least, and yeah, and well, and in bullet it didn't really matter which move I played because it's just it's my reason, I think. biggest mistake was just my time usage, as said. But in case I wouldn't be winning in the match, possibly I would have played quicker. But when I was, on plus score, I started to, to check everything twice, and yeah, it was definitely very, very, very bad for me.
Well, Hikaru, you're normally someone who puts other people on tilt, and the chat is kind of loving what you're saying there. Your honesty that you felt on tilt, and let me ask. I mean, as someone who's used to leading in these matches and hasn't trailed many of them, do you feel like today made you better in that sense, because you're not normally put in that spot to kind of deal with some of these practical issues? And do you feel like maybe going through that is actually going to make you even better in these matches, to having been down almost 3 games in the match but ultimately making a comeback? Do you think this pays off for your own experience?
I mean, I don't think it's any different than the final against Wesley last year. There was in the final match against Wesley. So I would think I was down 2 games, and there was this critical game where I think it was also 3 in the 3+1. And I think he was beating me, and I managed to turn around and win that game, and then it all went my way. So it's not the first time this has happened, but I think the way to lose like on a disconnection is of course upsetting, but to lose once like you've gotten the winning position, like you played a great game,
right,
and turn like a match that should be even into -2. It's obviously very upsetting. But having said that, I also felt that when I played Jan-Krzysztof in St. Louis on the final day, like the last couple of games, he also found a way to put me on tilt. So definitely some credit to him, because he did play quite well. It just, there was like that one critical moment in that game in 3+1 which really changed everything.
So there was oh, go ahead, Robert.
Well, I have a question for you. Jan-Krzysztof, I guess, couldn't remember this brilliant Queen A3 and then Queen A1 check to end the game. And we talked about your, disconnection, your mouse slip. But how did you recover from that loss? Because that was a really, the Queen A3 was a really nice shot. And it's unexpected. And then you just came back, in good shape. You maintained your composure and were able to win the rest of the match. So how did you keep your cool after such a nice win on Jan-Krzysztof's part?
I mean, I don't remember.
Yeah, that's.
Yeah, sorry. Yeah. I thought it was question to me.
No, it's Queen A3 is the best move. I mean, it's the best move of the whole match. It's Queen A3 and Queen A1 is the best move of the whole match, for sure. But no, I mean, I think the thing is that like I was not in a good mood. I wasn't keeping my composure. I just played bad chess, and I moved very quickly. But Jan-Krzysztof, like his time usage, he didn't use time at the right moment. So like he used the time when the position was like in the opening where I was doing some things that were a little bit dubious, as opposed to like once I had already gone off the rails in the like late middle game. So I thought like I was not playing well. I mean, composure is very generous, because I definitely was not composed. I was just in a bad mood though, and on tilt the whole time.
Was the mouse slip in game 1? Was it a misclick? It was a
yeah. I mean, I clicked the pawn on d5, and then I think I touched the knight. Like,
okay,
I mean, it's
okay.
Yeah, I mean, it's.
Well, you got the chat into a viral debate about whether someone is a clicker or a dragger, right? Because you can drag pieces or you can click. So we had a whole long debate about whether it's best to click or drag. Your thoughts? Click or drag?
I mean, I click obviously because it's just quicker, but I mean, I think the thing is like in the first game that's upsetting, but that's not, it's not that big of a deal. But then that disconnection really just like it put me on tilt. Like that was a lot worse psychologically than the mouse. Because the mouse slip, like the first game of the match, like okay, you lose the game on a mouse slip, big deal. I mean, you've got 3 hours to recover, but it's I mean, you click and go from there. But that's. Just I'm not happy with the way I played today, but it seemed to be good enough.
Well, Jan-Krzysztof, back to you. For the first time in your Speed Chess Championship career, you won't be in the semifinals, right? And I know you've only played 2 years, but what did you learn from this match? You touched on earlier that once you got the lead, maybe you started trying to be too precise. You started using too much time because you were up 2 games. What other takeaways do you have from this match that you would apply to, let's say, next year's Speed Chess Championship?
Okay, I think I just need to practice more, because actually last time I haven't played much game, online chess I mean. And yeah, that might be a reason actually, because in a couple of last days I played just some like 30 seconds per game or even 10 seconds per game just to, just to practice a bit. But in general, I think I wasn't prepared good enough. Still, obviously, I think the match was quite entertaining, and to be honest, I didn't really think that I could beat Hikaru because he feels to me he is superior at the moment and in online chess. And yeah, but yeah, still, I mean, it was, I think, this very game, this modern was the one which, after which I lost. I thought that okay, it might be not my match after all.
Well, we really appreciate it, and you're humble, and we know you have a bright future. And obviously, you considered yourself the underdog, but it was definitely an exciting match. You guys entertained us. We had tons of viewers, and it was a lot of fun. So I don't have any other questions unless you do, Robert.
I have one last question.
Go for it.
Hikaru, you're up next for you is Jan Nepomniachtchi.
Great question.
What do you think about that match? How do you stack up against Jan, who of course is an excellent speed chess player?
Yeah, I mean, I thought that Jan-Krzysztof would be a tougher match than Jan Nepomniachtchi. Jan's not a very strong player, but I've played Jan Nepomniachtchi a lot more, and he's much more liable to tilt. So I like my chances. Again, it's who knows when the match is. But I'll do some prep and hopefully things work out. And I'm sure, regardless, I'll be playing him in Moscow. So a very, very familiar opponent. We've had many great battles.
Right. Well, yeah, and I think a lot of people consider you the favorite there too, and we are greatly looking forward to that match. I'm glad you touched on it because we'll remind everybody, look out for dates being announced. We're working pretty hard. These guys are very busy, as Hikaru just said. He's heading to yet another event. So we will have announcements very soon about when the next Speed Chess Championship matches are. But tomorrow is Artemia versus So we already know that. But Hikaru, congratulations. Jan-Krzysztof, thanks for everything, guys. This was an exciting day, and best of luck in the next round, Hikaru.
Thank you.
All right, and there we have it. Our players, they were awesome. That was good. And actually, it's nice. Hikaru opens up about being on tilt there, Robert. He kind of knows that he needed to get a hold of himself regardless of connection issues. And I think they're right. I think that critical game where we were both like, wow, Jan-Krzysztof is about to take a 3-game lead. I even asked the question, has Hikaru ever trailed by 3 games to someone not named Magnus Carlsen? And the answer was no. And he didn't trail then. He managed to make a comeback there.
Yeah, that was a huge game. And of course, both players open and honest with everybody saying, all right, the mouse slip was unfortunate in the first game. The disconnection, of course, kind of helped Jan-Krzysztof Duda get ahead in the match. And then Jan-Krzysztof Duda said, after that game I lost where I was winning and Hikaru checkmated me, it went downhill from him. And I enjoyed hearing him talk about that psychology. When you're up in the match, you're trying to be perfect sometimes to keep the lead, whereas he should have trusted himself. And he said, it wasn't my match after all. And for Hikaru to admit that he was tilted, and also he gave great praise to Duda. He said he's a very worthy challenger. In fact, he said he was probably one of the players he thought he'd have the most trouble with at anyone in the field. And that is a great sign for both these players. Very respectful of the other, and they played a great match.
No, I mean, that is high praise, and we know Hikaru is very honest in his interviews, and he didn't win this. He didn't win this match by as big a score as we predicted, or not we, the Smarter Chess prediction. So that statistical compliments going to Jan-Krzysztof Duda, regardless of the compliments coming from Hikaru. So, yeah, no, I mean, it really was an exciting day, fantastic, and of course, Hikaru, moving on, that is your semifinal matchup. You will have Artemia and So tomorrow with me and Robert once again on the call. But regardless of what's going on with the Speed Chess Championship and the Grand Chess Tour Finals, we also have been reminding people we already have the Puzzle Battle World Championship underway in terms of qualification. We've had a lot of videos submitted. Top puzzle solvers. We already know the guy. I say the guy because I first referred to him as the guy. I was like, who is this guy? Jimis98. But he submitted a video. We're going to have a great combination of super strong players and great puzzle solvers. So score 35 in Puzzle Rush. Submit the video on social media using go at us, the official Twitter channel of Chess.com. Or use the hashtag Puzzle Battle and we'll pick it up. And qualification videos end December 15th. So get your qualification video in, and maybe you'll be competing for some big prizes. Robert, you're not allowed to submit a qualification because you got to commentate with me.
Wait, I can't submit one and you can just reject it?
You can. I'm just going to reject it.
Yeah, that's okay. You can go to Kemi Matumbo on me.
I'm going to
used to
reject
it.
it hard.
All right. I mean, this got way too personal all of a sudden, so I regret even asking the question.
Anyway, no, I want to touch on one thing, and you really were right that it was nice to hear Duda talk about the psychology of once you're up, how he changed his strategy, right? I think that's educational and instructive for everybody because when you don't have the right emotional state of being and you were like, I'm supposed to be losing in this match, and now I'm over trying to be perfect, right? I think that was a big thing, and ultimately losing that critical game to let Hikaru come back. It's an interesting takeaway. I like that point, so...
And we've all fallen victim to the perfectionism, right? Because chess is an objective game. We want to find the perfect move, but then when you're looking at your clock, you turn to the left and like, wait a second, I have 19 seconds, which happened many times, and Hikaru has a minute. And you're like, okay, now I can't find the perfect moves in these critical situations because I don't have the time to calculate. So, very honest response by Jan-Krzysztof Duda. I think it's something he will work on for future Speed Chess Championships. But as Hikaru Nakamura alluded to, the World Rapid and Blitz is happening at the end of December, and I'm sure Jan-Krzysztof will be playing. Jan Nepomniachtchi, Hikaru Nakamura, Magnus Carlsen. All of these top players will be there, and I'm definitely looking forward to that as well to see how they compete for a world title.
Yep. Well, thanks for everyone that's with us. Don't go anywhere. We are rating the official Chess.com coverage of the Grand Chess Tour Finals, which is in the final blitz game right now between Magnus Carlsen and Maxime Vacher-Lagrave. Dingley Ren has moved on. So stick with us. Go over to the Chess.com events channel. Bring the hype, bring the noise. Please go watch Levi Rosman and Roland Proussers as they cover the final blitz game between Magnus and MVL. On behalf of everybody here, Danny Rensch, Robert Hess, my producer, everybody, we out, everybody. See you tomorrow with more SCC coverage.